It's 7-minute abs, not 8-minute abs. 7-minute abs. Is something about Mary on your list, Griffin?
Yes, yeah. It is.
Get to it. All right, please.
There's so many movies. Each week I'm moving a different to the top.
Get to it. All I could think
I
about.
missed 1 week or 2 weeks, and you're speaking a language I don't even understand.
Did you never see There's Something About Mary?
Yeah.
You remember when Harlan Williams, the hitchhiker,
Right.
is trying to pitch Ben Stiller
Right.
the
Don't spoil it,
idea
don't spoil
of
Okay, got it.
7-minute abs. That's all I could think about last night when Ken Francis came into our lives. I could only think that he was Harlan Williams selling me 7-minute abs.
He's hooked somebody.
He's all in. He's a believer. Good morning. It is Glenn Clark Radio.
Don't we have something we could pitch Lamar on?
Yeah, try to get in on that
The
action.
Lamar-O-Meter.
Right. You want to be? Oh my God, we could make the entire gym could be the presenting sponsor of the Lamar-O-Meter. I'm all in. I'm all in. Stan the Fan is here. He's back after a couple of weeks.
Me?
I did, 100%. It's great to have you back, as always, my friend. We got a lot to do on a Friday edition of the program. Coming up a little bit later on, Mike Greenberg from ESPN is going to join us. His new book is called Got Your Number. I have to admit, there was some great. So the bit is that he took every number from 1 to 100 and assigned it to a player. And for a little while, I thought it was just jersey numbers, and all of a sudden, it goes off the rails.
Oh, I didn't see that part.
Oh yeah, you get a few because I was really angry about 8.
Right.
And then I found out that he assigned number 95 to Cal Ripken because it was 1995 when he broke the record.
Oh, everybody
so
calls him old number 95.
Right, like it's a little weird in that way. It's a bit weird.
I had one major problem right off the bat. Am I right?
Number
7 was Bobby Hull.
That was it 7 or which one was Hull? I thought
But he didn't have Mickey Mantle at 7.
No, and he had Joe DiMaggio over Brooks, and
Well,
I get it. I get it, but I was
Mr.
still
Coffee.
Right. But you couldn't have then come up with something with Brooks
for
the number of
like
Gold Glove
70,
awards?
like
yeah,
70.
something like that, right? That was her name, MVP, 100%. You couldn't have done that for Brooks at some point. Look, we'll deal with it with Mike Greenberg. It's
fun.
It's for this. It's for silly debate and nonsense, and for you to put on your coffee table, and then we'll talk to him about some.
Are you saying
Lamar.
Mike Greenberg is silly?
I think that some of this is silly, and I think I would be willing to say that to him. Now, some of it was straight up. 52 was Ray Lewis, right? 19 was John Unitas. There was. Some of them were quite straight up. Others were really cockamamie.
I thought
he
Fred
got there.
Lynn was going to be 19.
That would have made no sense. At all. None at all. All right. So, yes, we will get to Mike Greenberg. Also later on in the show, former NFL agent Rick Schaeffer. We will get his thoughts on his.
Good timing to have.
I want to pose this question to him. If he were hired today,
right?
How does he fix this? Right. How does this get fixed? What's the next step? If
he gets a piece of the equipment
of the
business.
Entire gym, I think you're right about that. Debbie Antonelli from ESPN, maybe the hardest working woman in show business. She just did the men's tournament last weekend for CBS. She had Miami and somebody else during the course of that, and so we'll talk about that. But really, we're going to talk about Maryland Notre Dame tomorrow that she'll have for ESPN in the Sweet 16. So. A lot to do on the program today. But Stan, today's show brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com, the Toyota Tacoma.
Not Dunkin' Donuts?
Well, for you, Stan is brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. Yeah. Although it took you. See, are you happy about it? Because I heard you had to go to multiple locations.
Yeah, I don't know what the corporate issue is there, but they didn't have the memo over it.
Got to get to the bottom of
the
this.
one here on Joppa Road. Right. I had to drive all the way over into the heart of Towson.
This is ridiculous.
After going.
And on a rainy day, too.
Rainy day,
everybody loves a trip to York Road, though.
Yeah.
Of course, the rainy day also ruined me as I was coming. As I try to people don't understand where I live, it is a very long time before I see a 2-lane road. Like, it is just nothing but 1-lane road until basically I
live in West Virginia, don't you?
Essentially, until I get to Towson, I don't see a 2-lane road. So all it takes when there's a rainy day is one person
that's going slow.
My day is ruined. And that was again the case. Today's show is brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
Have you ever tried to get into that parking lot at 201 York Road?
I know what you're referring to.
It is today. I had to wait like about 4 minutes behind a police car and another car that were turning in there, waiting for people to back their cars. I mean, it's just the worst designed parking lot.
You should have tried to go to the Domino's that's right across from it. That is the worst. That parking lot is like maybe like 5 feet wide, longer than a car. There's no way to turn around. It's
on Falls Road in Mount Washington. There is a Pizza Bowlies that doesn't actually have a parking lot. There's like 4.
It's a delivery place, actually.
Right,
yeah.
but people do go there to pick up.
Right before the Kelly Avenue Bridge.
And what happens is, if you're going there to pick up, you just sit in the middle of the road.
So the hazard's on.
And everybody behind you that's trying to move along with their day gets screwed in the process because the next lane is the turn lane, and everybody's waiting at the turn lane to turn left.
Do you know where you turn about a tenth of a mile past that on the Pizza Bowlies is on the right?
Yeah.
That place you turn in to go to Whole Foods.
Uh-huh.
There's a place in there, but way before you get to Whole Foods, that's got coffee milkshakes that are absolutely incredible.
Oh, I'm willing to.
I can't have any anymore.
How's the parking situation?
Yeah, right.
Parking situation there is great.
That's going to make my decision as to whether or not I might eventually visit it. Time for a Lamar-O-Meter update, and it is definitely the weirdest one yet. There is no question about that.
Who does that move electronically
yes.
overnight?
Oh, a lot going on. It's a very technologically advanced concept. Someone attempted the other day to create like a digital Lamar-O-Meter for me that I could move on Excel, and I said, no. You don't get the campiness is the point. You don't understand.
There's a charm to
yes,
it.
correct. Yeah. It's supposed to be like this. Boy, this is so weird. Like this is
so
weird.
Is this set for the number?
No, we haven't moved it yet. We're gonna move it
in
a minute. Well, we might. Maybe we'll leave it at the same number.
Right.
I'm trying to do my best to not overreact to anything in the last 24 hours because I know that we are in Bizarro land, but the idea that Lamar Jackson met this guy who was hawking a gym and said to him, hey, guy, why don't you go about handling is still, to me, a bridge too far. As bizarre as this scenario has been, as much as we think Lamar Jackson has had missteps in this process, the idea of meat person selling you a product, and then you say to this guy, you go call,
32, 31.
It's just, I'm really struggling with it.
It made it sound like he wasn't calling the teams per se. He was calling personnel at different teams that he knows.
And
that he probably tried to hook into the gym business.
That's exactly what I felt. Yeah. I felt way more
like the strength and conditioning coach.
He has somehow he got connected with Lamar, so he's connected to some folks and decided to go about calling them. And hey, while I have you on the phone, where are you guys at with Lamar? I don't know if you know, we're partners now. Where are you guys at? So Lamar comes out, denies that the guy is negotiating a contract for him, and we can laugh at that, but I tend to believe that. I don't actually believe that this guy was on the phone with the general man, Chris Ballard of the Indianapolis Colts, attempting to negotiate a contract.
No, I don't believe that.
I don't believe that for a second. Now, it's still hilarious. It's still embarrassing. I still don't know exactly what the thought process is. And it certainly plays to the people that think that Lamar might be feeling desperate in this process because it hasn't unfolded the way that he wanted to. Does it change anything about the practicality of the situation?
I don't know. He's becoming, to me, and you know where I've stood on this for a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so over him. It's become to me. He looks less and less like the guy I want leading my football team. His decision making in all of this. I'm a big believer. You make decisions in life that might reflect how you play on the football field a little bit. I just do not like his decision making at all. He has not looked like the guy that I want as the face of my franchise. I'd like to see the Ravens move on from him. I don't know.
So
they're in an odd place.
And let me ride with that for a second, because the second part of what you said, we don't inherently agree about the first part, but I'm willing to listen to it. Like, I definitely think there has been silliness involved. But even if you accept the premise of that, what is that next part? The Ravens have tied themselves. There is no plan B here.
Yeah.
There is no other option. There's nothing else they can do. They actually cannot trade him. Like, people keep talking about trading him. Somebody has to agree to an offer sheet before that would even be an option.
Right.
They would have to get someone else to put an offer sheet in that they match, that then they could start trade conversations. They can't even
trade him now for less than the what they would get.
They could if that team puts an offer sheet in.
Okay.
That you have to have. You cannot trade an asset that technically he hasn't even signed the tag. You don't have. There's no backup plan here. You're not going to be able to draft a quarterback at 22.
What about Andy Dalton?
I guess could be.
I'm ready for him. I'm ready for 2 seasons of Andy Dalton as they bring somebody else in.
Stan.
The guy won 5 games for the New Orleans Saints.
You know, he does have that going for him, which is that. And think about all the great receivers he'd have here in Baltimore to throw the ball to. That would really help improve upon that.
Maybe A.J. Green will come back out of retirement.
Maybe A.J. Green will come out of retirement and run around for 200 yards next season. Maybe he could do that. They have, even if you're in that place, and you're not alone. There are definitely other people who feel I'm just done. I want to move on from Lamar. To what? The Ravens have taken themselves out of the running for anything else.
I'm a Commanders fan.
Yo, you would just give up on the Ravens altogether at this point. Wow. That is a bold decision, my friend. Well,
who did the Commanders pick up?
They've got Jacoby Brissett is their answer. That's your guy. That's the savior moving forward. A nice. You'd like to have an organization with some stability for a change, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
That's why you've become a Commanders guy. I hear you. Trust me. I hear what you're saying. I don't think there's a plan B.
Yeah.
They have gone all the way in on this. They have said, we're matching whatever anybody puts out on the table. They have structured their cap. They have not signed a single player. They haven't improved their team at all. They have sold everything out in favor of we have to have Lamar Jackson. So that even if you're like Stan and you've gotten to a place where you're over Lamar Jackson, they can't be. Even if they get scared off by Joe Francis's brother. I don't think that's the case. I'm pretty sure this guy's not related to Mr. Girls Gone Wild, but it wouldn't surprise me at this point. Even if they got scared off by it, there's not a damn thing they can do about it. It's this or don't have a quarterback. It's this or just give up. I don't know what the idea would be. So what do I do about this?
Start talking about the Orioles.
Yeah, but there's that. There's that.
So what is the Lamar-O-Meter?
I feel like the premise alone.
It's basically at 100 because there's nothing they can do about it.
Oh, there's always still silliness that can come into play. I had somebody else reach out to me and said, why isn't the number 90%? There's no other plan here.
Right.
And there's 2 things that can happen still. Still what can happen is, as I keep trying to tell you, there could still be a team that gets desperate after the draft, that doesn't draft a quarterback and suddenly says, oh, my God, we're really going to go into a season with Taylor Heineke and Desmond Ridder as our quarterbacks and be irrelevant for a year.
Right.
There's still that possibility. The Colts, somebody trades in front of them, takes the quarterback that they wanted at 3, and all of a sudden they don't want to draft the guy that's sitting there at 4.
By the way, you just mentioned the guy who's available.
Who's that?
Matt
Ryan is available.
Ice.
Yes, that could be your answer, Stan. That could be what
rather
you
have Joe Flacco.
You're gonna go sit in the stadium in November next year, where it's 10 degrees outside, to watch Matt Ryan try to make his way through a season. Sounds like a hoot to me. Sounds like a great way to
have Joe Flacco back.
Did you already put in for your ticket renewal? Because
no, I at my age now, I passed.
You've decided no matter.
I decided.
You're done. Okay, all right. So but you wouldn't change your mind if it was Matt Ryan, though.
I'm still a Raven fan. If Matt Ryan was my quarterback,
But you're back in. All of a sudden, you're going back to who'd you pass them on to?
I'm on a weekly basis.
Okay, all right. There we go. To get out and watch Matt Ryan. I feel like as a policy, if the Globo Gym guy enters into my life, I have to drop the meter, right? Like, I don't care if even by practicality, I still can say.
But the Lamar-O-Meter is supposed to represent the chances of him
yes,
coming
the
back,
percentage,
or where the fans.
No, it's the likelihood that he's the quarterback for week 1 of the season. I think the way that I'm reflecting this is this is such a bizarro level that it does open up all of the bizarro possibilities that we've had out there. Like, if you're telling me that there's no way Lamar Jackson's going to hold out, sure. But I thought there was no way that Globo Gym guy would be out there negotiating for Lamar Jackson either. I think we have to recognize that whatever we think might happen in this process, we have no freaking clue what might happen in this process.
I'm looking at the Lamar-O-Meter now. You've done a great job at getting the branding of Press Box.
Yes.
Branding of the Glenn Clark radio show.
Give John Colson credit for that.
But how about the other things that you do during the week?
Oh, you want me to put something
like,
on everything?
Play-by-play,
like a
Stevenson,
logo, a Loyola logo.
Let's max out. That's what we can do with the Lamar-O-Meter.
Well, we were pretty close to having a corporate sponsor for the Lamar-O-Meter. Unfortunately, that one fell apart. But we're working on it.
Was it Mr. Francis's?
I don't believe it was the entire gym. Although I would love that. Oh my God, I would love if that was the case. In fact, I'd almost be willing to give it to him.
Get him as a guest on the show.
Well, we did. For what it's worth, we did reach out to Mr. Francis last night, and unfortunately, have not heard back to this point. We'll keep you updated. He also has denied that he was involved in any sort of negotiating.
He had no.
64%.
It'll be interesting.
64%. You should definitely in the tweet reference my Globo Gym thing. Like as policy, once the Globo Gym guy enters my life, I have to drop the number down.
The timing couldn't be better though to have Rick Schaeffer on. We can talk to him a little bit about why it is that you can't have an uncertified agent.
Yeah. And again, I have to be careful. I still don't believe that this guy was actually working in an agent capacity for Lamar Jackson.
No, but he definitely was working in some capacity, offhanded comments
or
he
got
back to the league.
Or he believed that he had the ability. There's still a part of me that thinks that this guy overstepped. That this guy, Lamar Jackson, said, "I'll partner with you for this product. We'll do that." And
By
this
the way,
guy,
I don't have a contract right now.
Right.
I'm working feverishly on that.
And this guy took it and ran with it and said, "I'm going to talk to your point, the guy that I know in Detroit, about
they've got Joe Goff,
Jared Goff,
Jared Goff,
right?
He's horrible.
And while I'm on the call, hey, what are you hearing?
Right.
What are you hearing from your front office about where's that at? Because we're fishing around here." 64 is where the Lamar-O-Meter goes, and I'm
64.
64.
And what was it last Friday?
Last Friday,
roughly.
No, last week it was in this until the statement from DeMaurice Smith last Friday.
Right.
The number had been consistently in the 70s.
Okay.
And yesterday it was 69.
And what did DeMaurice? I'm sorry, I was.
DeMaurice
sick.
Smith came out very aggressive. Yes,
we were at 74% last Friday.
Yeah, we were trending that way.
Right.
But DeMaurice Smith was the first time that you really started thinking about whether or not Lamar was up to fight.
Right.
Right? Like, because DeMaurice Smith came out very strongly about collusion and very strongly about.
Okay.
And it just made you think, like, maybe Lamar Jackson is willing to fight. Like, won't just turn.
Be the Colin Kaepernick of
or
this.
Bill Rhoden, our friend Bill Rhoden, wrote about the idea of him being football's Curt Flood, right? Like, and that's something that I have kind of thrown out there from time to time. But the DeMaurice Smith comments were the first time that we really. And then this idea that Lamar. By the way, when's that video coming out? How we doing on that? Lamar teasing some interview last week that we still haven't seen a week later, which is, oh man, it's all bizarro world. We're living in bizarro world, but the Ravens have tied themselves to bizarro world at the exact same time. Yeah. So what we do about that, I have no earthly idea. And I don't know, like, that's the other part of this, Stan. I do wonder at some point, like when they all get together over in the room, what they're feeling over there. Because for a little while we were saying, look how brilliant they look. They played their hand perfectly, right? Like, they perfectly played the hand that they knew there wasn't going to be a fully guaranteed offer out there for Lamar Jackson. They knew that they would have the ability to match any offer that did come. No offers have come in. The market has moved itself right back to them. But now we're living in Globo Gym world. Now we're living in, like, how do you think it feels right now if you're Eric DaCosta and you're Steve Bisciotti and you haven't been able to add a player at all during the course of this process? We did see yesterday that Baltimore native Adrian Amos is visiting the Ravens. I like Adrian, but, you know, he's a little bit deeper into his career, and I don't know if he's still the exact same player. Could he be an element of Chuck Clark for this defense? Perhaps. Mm-hmm. Perhaps he could do something similar to that. But to this point, they have signed no one. They have in no ways improved their football team, which I think we all believed.
And this is not a year that they've got like 10 or 11 picks. They've got
5 draft picks.
Yeah. 5
draft picks to work with. They're worse without Chuck Clark. It looks less and less likely like Calais Campbell. He's going to visit the Falcons.
Right.
There's still a possibility that he's just waiting out Lamar Jackson news. I have no doubt if I'm Calais Campbell at the end of my career, I would far prefer to be with Lamar Jackson in Baltimore than to be in Atlanta with Taylor Heineke. Like, if the point of it is in contention.
Has he signed with the Falcons?
No, he just visited the Falcons. Like, and I don't think that's where he would want to. I can't believe for a second that's where he would want to be unless he heard something that they're going to be the team that ends up with Lamar Jackson. Yeah. Why would you want to, if the only thing that you have to do in your career is try to win a Super Bowl, why in God's name would you be signing in Atlanta where they don't have anything to suggest that they have a chance to win a Super Bowl? So maybe it could still work out with Calais Campbell, but every day that goes by, it looks less likely. They're a worse football team on the whole today than they were with a healthy Lamar Jackson last season.
Is there any chance, like, in the next couple of weeks we could, above the Lamar-O-Meter,
yeah, you want to do another?
The Raven-O-Meter?
Let's see how I'm trying to guess how Eric DeCosta.
How many wins?
Okay, all right. Now I'm listening on that. I'm listening on the Raven. Let's get a corporate sponsor for the Lamar-O-Meter first, and then we pitch the corporate
Dunkin'
sponsor.
Donuts.
Hey, look, man, I'm all in. You know, you'll be responsible for setting the Lamar-O-Meter next Friday because I'm not here.
Oh my goodness.
Are you nervous about the responsibility?
I haven't slept
since I just told you that. Yeah, correct.
I haven't slept since then.
Slept since then at all. Yes, Stan will be responsible.
I have my fantasy baseball draft. I have been.
Now, when is that? Is that Sunday?
Sunday.
Okay.
I got sick when I got sick
when you looked at your fantasy baseball team. I don't blame you.
No, not yet. Not yet. That'll come by about May 1st. But I got sick, and I've closeted, and Jane got sick. Unfortunately, I gave her whatever I had. So we've been sleeping apart, and I've been closeted in just doing research.
You've been kind of turning into Howard Hughes a little bit.
Yeah,
you've been peeing in bottles.
Yeah.
You've been doing the whole thing.
I always have done
that.
Okay,
fair enough. Right. I mean, look, man, I'm not gonna knock what it is that you're into.
Yeah.
All you can think about is your fantasy baseball.
The P-O-meter.
The P-O-meter. That's where we are. How many bottles did Stan fill yesterday while he was thinking about fantasy baseball?
Yeah.
Boy,
I don't have time to go to the bathroom. I've got.
You got to study up, man. Yeah. You got to figure out if this is the year where you've got to draft. I don't even know who's available.
And it's a big week for me because the power rankings come out.
It is a big week. It is a big week. We're going to get into that a little bit later on in the show. All right, let's go back. This just to wrap up because I don't have a whole lot more to say about Ken Francis. I hope his gym product is lovely. I hope it works out for him. I hope that Lamar didn't sink a fortune into this thing only to lose it at that point. But we'll wrap up that thought because I really and truly don't believe there's a whole lot more to be said about it until there is. I think it was the shock of everything yesterday that kind of, I'm going to give you the same question I'm going to give Rick Schaeffer later. How do you fix this?
Well, it depends. It depends upon, at the end of the day, it depends upon Steve Bisciotti and you just have to wonder what he is thinking and whether he is privately seething that he's got to deal with this nonsense. I mean, he's a guy who has been the steward of what was a really solid, well-respected organization when he purchased it. And I would think you'd agree that the Ravens have only enhanced that reputation up until
there have obviously been moments.
Yeah, I mean the handling of Ray Rice
was horrendous.
Horrendous. There's no question about it.
And look, they have dodged what in any other offseason would be a massive scandal with the Steve Saunders stuff. Like the way that this has worked out for them, that it died 3 days later because we all went right back to just talking about Lamar Jackson 24/7, could not have benefited them anymore because nobody is. Next week when the owners meetings go on, I don't know that anybody's going to even bring it up with Steve Bisciotti because nobody cares 3 weeks later. And there are still a lot of questions that you would need to have answered there. I've wondered aloud if it's poisoned Lamar's relationship. Like, if we go back and look at last season and Lamar says, dude, there's a reason why I'm not going back out on the field. It's because I don't trust you. And everything that we have seen from every other player that has been around this guy would back that up, would say, yeah, that makes sense that you don't trust what they're telling you because no one did in this franchise. No one trusted their return from injuries with this dude. So there's a lot there that's not being dealt with because it all gets covered up. But, yes, for the most part, aside from those little blips, I agree.
Yeah. But basically, from a player standpoint, like Roquan Smith came into town, and there wasn't all this drama with Roquan Smith. I mean, I know it's lesser dollars, on the grand scale of things, but he doesn't have anything negative to really say about the Ravens. He was here about 7 or 8 weeks, and he was, I'm all in,
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So that's the reputation this franchise had. I don't know that it has that same reputation right now,
I don't know how much of it is a reflection on them.
Yep.
It's a weird. I don't know what it makes other people to think about, but boy, it's not
good.
But
you remember the story, and we may have talked about this 3 weeks ago when I was last here. You remember the story when Masson used to have the Ravens ancillary TV stuff.
Sure.
And the story that goes there is that Dick Cass showed up to negotiate with Peter Angelos to continue the deal. And he goes, where's Steve? And Dick Cass said, Steve doesn't negotiate. I negotiate for him, and I want to deal with Steve only.
Correct.
And what ended up happening is Peter Angelos pulled the plug on the deal with Masson. Why is this is a significant enough issue that I don't know, or where is Sashi Brown on this? In other words, it's all sort of left up to the relationship of Eric DeCosta has this great relationship with Lamar, and that relationship hasn't proven fruitful to getting a deal done. Isn't it time to bring somebody else into the negotiations?
And
bring Ron Shapiro into the negotiations.
And maybe it's possible that privately they've had and they've just attempted to keep it, hush-hush in order to – I don't know. But you're right, and I understand that concept.
And I wonder if it would have gotten to this point if Ozzie Newsome was the front person.
Fair question to ask. It's a fair question. We will talk about other things this morning. We're going to talk some baseball. We're going to talk a little women's basketball. And by the way, there were 2 incredible games last night. My God. The Kansas
women's
State
basketball?
No, not last night. They didn't play any last night. The Kansas State-Michigan State game last night was
classic.
I am so furious it couldn't have gone an hour longer. And then the UCLA-Gonzaga game.
We're going to get another extra.
It looked
more extra basketball
it looked like it was going to be a blowout. Then it looked like it was going to be a blowout the other way. And then all of a sudden it ended up being, edge of your seat thrilling. We're going to talk Maryland women's basketball next with Debbie Antonelli. Today's show brought to you by Betfred and PressBoxOnline.com/offers. Betfred is Maryland's newest sportsbook. It's now up and running just in time for March Madness. Bet $50 and get up to $1,111 in bonus Fred bets. But you got to go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers for Betfred specials and other great sign-up deals. This is Glenn Clark Radio. Stand the fans here. The Baltimore County Police Department is hiring. Entry-level officers start at over $60,000 and over $64,000 for lateral officers, with $10,000 signing bonuses available. Plus, cadets start at over $32,000. Great benefits are available like medical, dental, and vision insurance, tuition reimbursement, 15 sick days per calendar year with no limit, career advancement to more than 20 specialized units, and more, with further incentives for military service members and veterans. A passion for service, a career for life with the Baltimore County Police Department. Find out more at joinbaltimorecountypd.com or call 410-887-5542. Must be a United States citizen, have a valid driver's license, and a high school diploma or GED equivalent.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Orioles phenom Gunnar Henderson, breaking down how he was able to become the top prospect in baseball at such a young age, and what could be next in his first full MLB season. Also inside, we meet lacrosse players from the men's and women's college programs across the state, and Bo Smoka breaks down another year of wide receiver issues for the Ravens. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Have you experienced hardship due to COVID-19 and want to start a new career path? Look no further than CCBC. Starting in March, CCBC offers short-term career training programs like real estate sales. And the best part, funding is available for those who qualify. Real estate sales is a lucrative career that can provide a stable income and flexibility. With CCBC's real estate sales program, you'll learn everything you need to know to get started in this exciting field. Call us at 443-840-2222 or ccbcmd.edu to learn more. CCBC Real Estate Sales. Your new career starts now with funding available. 443-840-2222 or ccbcmd.edu.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Stan the Fan here, welcoming back one of my favorite sponsors, the Costas Inn. And everybody around Baltimore knows the Costas Inn is a great place to go and grab crabs, steaks, salads, soups, whatever's on your mind to eat in person. But did you know that the Costas Inn has upped their game? They are now one of the premier takeout places in Baltimore. Give them a call now to order your food, 410-477-1975. That's the Costas Inn over 4100 North Point Boulevard.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
Check out PressBoxOnline.com every day to find daily winners and betting advice from Jeremy Kahn. And if you want some advice about life decisions that you probably shouldn't make, here's Glenn Clark.
All right, back in here on GCR. Stan the Fan Charles is here on a Friday edition of the program. Gambling can be fun, but you should set a limit. Stay within it. Remember that if you or a loved one has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org for free confidential services. Stan, our next guest, really the busiest woman in show business at this point. She will be on the call tomorrow morning. 11:30 a.m. is the tip time for Maryland and Notre Dame on ESPN.
Should be a barn burner.
Oh, my God. The first time they got together is one of the best games of the year. And then, you know, all she's doing, she's been working the men's tournament last weekend. She's got the Final Four coming up. She's doing everything.
She's not negotiating for
I
Lamar
don't believe
Jackson.
that she's negotiating for Lamar Jackson. But if she can help, we will absolutely enlist her services. She is Debbie Antonelli, and she is with us now here on GCR. Debbie, it's Glenn and Stan in Baltimore. It's so great to catch up with you. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes for us this morning.
Listen, you guys, I am so happy to be on with you. I'm so excited about this time of year, and I can tell you guys are too. And this should be a heck of a game tomorrow between Notre Dame and Maryland.
Well, Debbie, I remember coming in here the morning after the first game and just raving about how it was one of my favorite basketball games that I had watched in some time, not just because of Diamond Miller's buzzer beater, but because there was no separation between these teams for the entirety of the game. Like, nobody was leading by more than 2 scores at any point in the course of the game. It was as back and forth as it can get. Is it possible that this game tomorrow could live up to the standard of their first meeting out in South Bend?
Oh, I definitely believe so, and I was on the call for that game the first time, so I did experience exactly what you're talking about, the exhilaration of the product being the narrative and 2 really good teams battling it out. I absolutely believe it could be. But, you know, both teams have changed significantly since that time. Notre Dame has lost their starting backcourt to injury. They have gone to playing big on the front line. And one of the areas that Maryland beat Notre Dame in that matchup in November was on the glass. So it should be interesting to see who can control the tempo. Maryland wants to use their speed and make it fast. Notre Dame needs to slow it down and play a little bit more efficiently in the quarter-court.
Debbie, I plead ignorance on this, but if I go to FanDuel.com right now, would I be able to find a spread on this game?
You can, yes. There is a spread.
Okay.
For sure.
Yes, I know on the ESPN app there's a spread from Caesars for sure.
And what is the spread in this game?
I'm going to look it up,
I'm
Stan.
guessing Notre Dame by 2.
I don't think so. I think Maryland's favored in this
Really?
game. I'll look that up. I'll try to confirm it.
I thought it was more like 4.5 or something like that, guys, but I'm not sure.
All right.
Probably shouldn't be talking about it.
So
I'm calling the game.
Let me ask you a question. One of the things that has popularized a lot of men's sports, basketball and baseball and football, is gambling. Is there much action on women's basketball games?
Listen, guys, this is the next frontier in women's sports, and you need to hop on right now. I think there's definitely a demographic on sports that doesn't pay attention to the women's game as much, but there's a chance that you can get involved right now. And I think that having lines on the game is great for the sport. So I'm not an advocate of gambling, but I'm an advocate of the lines becoming part of the entertainment value of watching women's basketball. Yes, you know how it goes when look, I live with all men. I got 3 guys and a husband. I don't even know how many fantasy football teams they have during the course of the season, but I know they're paying attention to that.
Well,
I think it's the next frontier in women's athletics.
Well, I remember when Baltimore got the CFL football team in the mid-'90s, right before the Ravens moved here. That was a big issue for a lot of people back then, was that because lines, forget just gambling on them, they kind of tell you what the script of the game should be, so you know if you're seeing something really remarkable happening.
Those guys out there don't get it wrong very often. So if there's a major swing in the game, it's usually because you can hang on and pay attention because you think if you're paying attention to the spread that the game's going to come back, right?
Yeah.
So I think I don't want to talk about the spread. I want to tell you about these two teams and how great they are and what a good game it's going to be. But I definitely will say this, just to put a button on it, I definitely believe that this is the next area of growth in women's sports, and I think people are going to get involved because when you watch, you're paying attention, ratings go up. When ratings go up, we have more to sell. I think it's a really important piece of growing the game.
There's no doubt. 4.5, by the way, is the number for the record. Maryland is favored by 4.5. Debbie Antonelli is with us. Maryland, Notre Dame tomorrow morning. Debbie, I guess the part of this that's a little bit awkward would be, can either of these teams beat South Carolina if they do go on and advance, right? Like, that is, as good of a game as this is the behemoth that would be waiting for the winner too much for either of these teams at that point?
Well, assuming that South Carolina gets past UCLA, and here's the thing, like all year I've been talking about this, South Carolina is so good. They are dominant on the defensive end. They lead the nation in so many defensive categories, and they have size and they have length and they're athletic and they're deep and they got a high motor now. They play with a very high motor on that end of the floor. That makes it really challenging. However, if you have the ability to stay on the glass with them, play them straight up in the post, not rotate because they'll kill you on the offensive boards if you have to rotate. You can't play with a double. You've got to be able to play them straight up. And if you can put 5 scorers on the floor, multiple scorers, any good defense has to deal with rotation if you move the ball. And I think that's why both of these teams are pretty good on the offensive end. Maryland is excellent on the offensive end, 80 points a game. South Carolina averages 80 points a game. But South Carolina's got to get past UCLA first, and UCLA moves the ball really well on the offensive end.
Let me just follow up that question with, I always thought it was a good thing for women's basketball that UConn stopped being the dominant power they were for 15 years or so. But are we on the precipice of having another team that's that dominant in South Carolina right now, Debbie?
I think they definitely have a dynasty going, and Coach Staley will bypass that, saying, we got to win multiple, we got to win back-to-back. She has a whole other definition of what she thinks a dynasty might be, but I definitely think that they have that brewing. And the other thing, too, is about UConn. I mean, you can't discount him. I mean, he's been to 14 consecutive Final Fours. That is an absolutely ridiculous number to go along with his 11 championships. So, they're, out in Seattle, and they'll have a challenge out there with Ohio State. But, it's good for the game that we can even have these kind of conversations about multiple teams, because I think parity has been a cliche on the women's side. On the men's side last year, when you have Duke, North Carolina, Villanova, and Kansas in the Final Four, you don't hear anybody talking about parity. Okay, so I don't know why we have to have that conversation on the women's side.
It's a very good point. Obviously, none of those teams are there this year, but you make a strong point. They regularly seem to be there. Debbie, if I could, how has this happened with Brenda Frese this season? Because this team is kind of all over the place, right? Like the transfer portal, and we just talked to Brene Alexander yesterday, who's fit in so seamlessly coming in this way. But to be in this position again, to legitimately have a chance when this was a team that was kind of all over the place coming into this season, how was she able to do this, and what does it speak to? I mean, look, we've known how great of a coach Brenda Frese has been for some time, but in a way, could you argue this is one of her better coaching efforts, given everything that she had to deal with?
I could definitely make that argument. When you consider they lost 85% of their scoring, Diamond was coming in with a knee injury, Faith Masonis was coming off a knee injury, and you had some new pieces that brought in actually 9 new players. So if you needed any validation, not that Brenda needs it because she's won a championship, she's been multiple national coach of the year, she continues to win Big Ten championships and regular season and tournament titles. They're always in the mix. I think it just speaks to how good and how seamless the personalities fit with the style of play. And the portal has changed things in the game. It's not the same amount of money on the women's side as the portal is involved on the men's side, but there's still the same issues about chemistry and finding the right fit and all of that. But yes, Brenda, Brenda and I joke because I'm the chair of the National Defensive Player of the Year for the WBCA, and she's on the committee with me, and she and I both love offense. Who would have thought the two of us would be talking defense? But when you look at Maryland, they're long, they're athletic, they play up-tempo, they have multiple ways they can defend. They're going to be a handful on the defensive end for Notre Dame, who's playing without their starting backcourt due to injury.
To your point about NIL, it's hard not to think about what this team could be if they, only had like an Angel Reese, too, on top of everything else. Jeez, my God, what they could be. Debbie, I don't want to keep you all day. I would love to get your thoughts. So there's one local kid that's still playing in the men's tournament. It's Anthony Walker. He's a kid from Perry Hall who's a reserve at Miami. I know you saw them last weekend. Is there any chance that they could hang with Houston tonight? And I don't think they're going to win a title. I don't think they're going to cut down the nets. But especially if like Sasser were to be hurt, I'm just so rooting. I happen to go to the same high school as this kid. Oh, they're unbelievable. Is there any chance?
Oh, listen, Anthony. Oh, man, yes, Anthony played great the other night. Now, I had Miami. I've had him multiple times this year covering the ACC on the men's side on a regular basis. And on Friday, Miami played as bad as I've seen them all year. And on Sunday, they played as well as I've seen them play. And here's the thing with Jim Larrañaga. Anthony's a big piece of what they do because he's got some size. They don't have any size. Tad-Ometer at 6'7" in the middle of the floor. At the beginning of the year, their ball screen coverages involved Tad playing coverages like a big, drop coverage, sitting in the gap. Now he's out there, hard hedge, ball screen, looking to trap. They have to play with speed. They are built for speed, and Coach Larrañaga has done a great job playing that style and getting them up-tempo on both ends of the floor, especially on the defensive end, because it neutralizes their lack of size in the post, and therefore a big that gets on the block and posts up isn't a problem for them. See, now, Houston doesn't pose that problem, right? Houston's built in a very similar way. You got to stay on the glass with those guys, and you can't turn the ball over. Yes, Miami can win that game, and I think that's going to be the most exciting game of the day.
I hope you're right about that. He is a great kid. He was just on with us a couple days ago, and I am rooting like hell for him. We will, of course, around these parts be rooting like hell for Maryland tomorrow morning against Notre Dame. I understand that you have to keep it far more neutral than that, Debbie, but we are looking forward to this call and hopefully on the Monday night and what could be a huge showdown for the Terrapins. It's at Debbie Antonelli on Twitter, correct?
That's right. You guys call me on Monday if Maryland advances. I'd love to come back on and break it down for you.
I promise we will do that. Debbie, thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes for us today.
Debbie.
All right, guys. Have a great day. See ya.
Debbie Antonelli with us here on GCR. Again, Maryland, Notre Dame tomorrow morning at 11:30. Those two games last night, man, I am still raving about. This Kansas State-Michigan State game was everything that I could ask for in a basketball game. Like, this is the beauty of the NCAA tournament. Marquise Noel.
I've got about 7 tidbits on him later.
19 points, 20. No, wait, hang on. The other way. 20 points, 19 assists. is just absurd. It's just so absolutely absurd. The number of logo threes we saw between that game and then Strouter from Gonzaga last night.
They had over 22 or 23 threes in that game.
Yeah, I mean it was just such a bonkers night of tournament play. I feel like coming into this weekend, everybody had separated and said Alabama and Houston are the two teams that can really win the championship at this point, and everybody else lines up behind that. I don't know, man. Between
UConn has played themselves into the conversation,
pounding the crap out of Arkansas last night.
By the way, Eric Musselman did keep his shirt on
I believe last night he kept his shirt. I mean, it was never close. I don't know how much celebrating you'd be doing. In fact, I barely watched the game because it was never competitive. I never really flipped over at any point during the course of the game. And the other game early was so good that, like, my God, why would I be moving over? I don't know. I thought Gonzaga reminded you that there's still more there. If anything, the feeling was that Gonzaga had kind of disappointed during the course of the season. But remember, they beat St. Mary's in the WCC championship by like 1,000 points. They pounded them in the conference championship game. Then to do what they did last night in comeback fashion when they were left for dead, Drew Timme scoring, did he finish with 36?
36 and 13.
36 and 13. To had to come all the way back, then blow the lead, and then win the game is a testament to me about what they still are capable of being. It's a veteran team.
Where is Timme in terms of his NBA?
He's done. NBA?
Yeah.
Definitely got the Wizards will take in the second round.
Oh, God, no doubt. Oh, he does absolutely have future Wizard written all over him. Jesus Christ. And then he actually is somewhat helpful for a couple seasons.
Right.
And then they sell him in a couple of years for nothing. That definitely
as soon as he develops into being
as soon as it looks like he's a guy.
He seems like he's got to lose about 15, 18 pounds of what I'd call a little bit of baby
fat, yeah.
And really get serious about it. But, boy, he's got some great skills.
He's got some
monster heart.
Oh, his heart is unbelievable, and his leadership and sort of taking everything upon himself. Yeah. There's a lot to like there.
And I hear he's got a gym equipment business
that he wants
to
you
start.
Can get in on it. You got an opportunity right now, and then he'll start selling. Never mind, I'll get into that conversation another day. I don't know. Gonzaga looked legit to me, but I said coming in, like Kansas State, what they did late against Kentucky. When the game was on the line,
they've showed a toughness that I wouldn't have imagined that team had.
It's so funny how excited we are about the first year of Kevin Willard here, and like they've got a first-year head coach, and they look like a team that could plausibly win a national championship. I'm not trying to dismiss Florida Atlantic, but I don't know. I don't feel it at the moment. I certainly feel that Kansas State
was quite a shocker to me.
It was a shocker. I do agree with that, and
it fits into the Rick Barnes sort of career trajectory.
There's a lot of this. Yeah. There's a lot of just when you think, right? Just when you think. Unfortunately, not the case. I don't know, man. Three of those teams last night I can't dismiss. I can't.
Connecticut,
Gonzaga, and Kansas State. Yeah. All of them, I believe, the way that they play. Kansas State, the way that they have not blinked in the biggest moments of games against, again, literally John Calipari and Tom Izzo coach teams.
Yeah.
With a first-year head coach.
Izzo has an over 700 winning percentage in NCAA
correct.
games. Yeah.
And they didn't blink when Michigan State made their move last night. I am blown away. And I get it. Comparing Kansas State to Maryland is unfair because Bruce Weber retired. Like, the cupboard was far more full that Jerome Tang took over than what Kevin Willard walked into post Mark Turgeon here at Maryland. It's an unfair comparison to make between two first-year head coaches.
I will say this about now I've lost my train of thought. K-State, it was about the team that beat Arkansas.
UConn.
No, that's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
I'm talking about Houston. I'm sorry. That's what I got thrown off by.
Yep.
I haven't seen Auburn play that much this year, but that defensive performance by Houston in the second half of that game, if that was all, Auburn's really not that good a club, and I know they were an 8 or 9 seed, but if they're just a bad offensive team, that was like an absolute clinic on defense. And it was very reminiscent of the way some of the great teams over the years, like Baylor, with the way they played defense.
So it's interesting because we'll say things like defense wins championships, right? And then it's my friend Patrick Stevens was tweeting about this last night. Then you get a reminder of nights like last night where
offense.
I mean, like we can say that, but
it's 3-point era of basketball. Like you
right,
need to be able to shoot the three and
like my God, was there defense in Michigan State, Kansas State, and I think they were trying. But the number of backdoor cuts that Michigan State, the best coach team in the tournament, the number of backdoor cuts they were giving up as that game went along, when you knew it was coming, I don't know.
That one where the kid looked to the coach and, he was like communicating with the coach and flipped one in there.
Wasn't the story at one point that he was chatting, that he was smack-talking Mateen Cleaves because Mateen Cleaves was in the crowd?
Right.
And like it's an undersized guard thing that like Noel and
they're
Cleaves,
in New York City,
right? And it's and so he like starts watch what I'm about to do, and then.
By the way, they showed this crowd shot, and they were talking about what celebrities are here or something, and I go, that looks like Kirk Gibson there.
Was it?
And it was.
Oh, it makes sense. Michigan State, yeah, of course,
about
right.
30 seconds later, but he was wearing a hat with an S. Does Michigan State have?
I think
one of their logos is the S.
I think it's for Spartans. Yeah, I think they do have that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they do.
It was really cool that he was there.
It is cool that he was there. I agree with that. And I had to blink. I'm like, why would Kirk? Oh, right, Michigan State. Yeah, of course.
So
that's
baseball
the reason.
Yeah, just
He's
an
probably
S.
very friendly with Izzo.
It would make all the sense in the world if he was friendly with. In fact, is there a chance that Kirk Gibson might have had a role at Michigan State at one point? Now that I think about it, like after.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know that, but I think there is a chance that at some point he might have had a role at Michigan State. Tonight, you pointed out that the odds makers don't think much of these being terribly competitive games this evening.
On the men's side.
On the men's side, yes, correct. Alabama's a 7.5-point favorite. Houston's a 7.5-point favorite. Creighton, I get it, they're playing Princeton, is a 10.5-point favorite. The closest spread is Texas-Xavier, Texas being a 4.5-point favorite in that game.
I really like what Miller's done, Sean Miller's done at Xavier. I mean, boy, they were impressive last week.
They're very impressive. I agree with that. I think it's fascinating. The one question that I've had is, does Houston start to feel an amount of pressure about the idea of hosting the Final Four, about that this is their does that at any point kind of creep into them, oh my God, this is our moment?
Well, I'll tell you, that kind of thinking can creep into how you play offense, but defense does not take a vacation because you might choke. You don't choke on defense.
I'll listen to that. I'll listen to that.
My money would be on Houston right now to win the whole thing.
It'll come down to, Kelvin Sampson. He's got to prove that, he can keep the guys, I guess, locked in.
Sure. And they got to be. And again, they need to be healthier than they were a weekend ago. Yeah. They need to be healthier because it was a struggle. It was a slog through those two games a weekend ago, offensively.
Could this be the best era of coaching that you think we've seen in the NCAA? Like, just
no,
I
don't think that. I mean, my God,
I feel like we talk about it. I feel like that's.
I understand, but we're only a couple years removed from there being Jim Boeheim, Roy Williams, Mike Krzyzewski, Jim Calhoun. Like, no, I don't think this is the golden era of that at all.
The golden era.
I think maybe
new era.
A new era. Sure, we could talk about that. There is a new era that appears. Yes, Nate Oates absolutely is.
The guy at K-State.
Jerome Tang looks like a superstar in the making for sure. I agree with that as well. What did you think about a couple of the hires this week? Ed Cooley to Georgetown, Rick Pitino going to St. John's.
Well, I have a really look. Rick Pitino is one of the great basketball coaches of all time, but I wouldn't want him associated with my program whatsoever. And I think he once again proved that he's nothing more than a mercenary. For Iona to take a chance on him when he was like radioactive, and he gave him 3 years, and he did some good things there. He's 70. How old is Rick now? 71, 72 years old?
70.
I want to.
I think he's 70. He looks like he's about 80 through all
Rick
that
Pitino is now. He's 70 even. Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
I just think stay where the school that was loyal to you, and you can. There's nothing that he can accomplish at St. John's that he couldn't accomplish at Iona. Seriously.
Well,
he's a big enough name to draw players there. You know.
One of the things that I did not know about Rick Pitino is his obsession with the Garden. Of course, we remember it makes sense when he took the Knicks job. There is a little bit of that and his obsession with the Big East in general. It's funny. There was a story that came out this week. Peyton Siva, who played for him at Louisville, shared that when they played because this is before Louisville joined the ACC, when they were still in the Big East, when they played at the Garden, Peyton Siva walked out to the floor before the game wearing flip-flops, and Rick Pitino screamed at him because you don't do that here. You treat this place with respect. Right. So clearly there's an affinity there for Madison Square Garden and for that played a strong role in this. I think a couple people have said he wouldn't have left Iona had it not been for this. Now, it's easy to say that type of thing. Who knows?
I wish him no ill will. I just think I thought Iona, again, took him when he was radioactive. Sure. I know that doesn't buy you permanence, but it's the first job offer
they also made a nice hire, scooping up Tobin Anderson, Fairleigh Dickinson, coming off obviously that historic win. So I think they'd say they're in a pretty good place. The Ed Cooley one is interesting to me.
Yeah, I like that hire.
I love the hire. Yeah. Can Georgetown become Georgetown again at some point? It's been a really long time. You'd still like to say there's a talent pipeline there, but unlike Maryland, there's not a broad alumni base. It's not the same. It doesn't galvanize. The entire state of Maryland is galvanized by Maryland basketball. Georgetown doesn't have that same type of thing. So can you create that? You don't have your own building. You're playing in a building that's far too big. It makes it a little bit awkward. People are like, do I really want to drive to downtown? Like all of those things. There's a lot there. Can Georgetown ever be Georgetown again? Ed Cooley's a hell of a coach, man. Yeah. He's a hell of a coach. And
Providence rebounded quickly and got a good solid hire in Kim English.
It's a fascinating thing. I love Kim English. Yeah. But he didn't really do anything at George Mason, right? Like, they were meh for a couple of seasons in a down Atlantic 10.
Right.
I think Kim English is one of the smartest people I've ever come across. He is brilliant. And you have a conversation with him, you're like, he could be the president. He's that smart. But I don't know yet how good of a basketball coach Kim English really is. Right. I think what they're hiring is the same thing that most of us feel. He's so smart and he's so liked that if you give him some resources, he's gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
And at Providence, like, they're the major in a market. Providence isn't, a major city in this country, but it's a real
New England market.
It's a real market. Yeah. There's a media base there. They have their own radio stations. There's a big building there. Like, there's a real market there. There are resources to be had.
Dunkin' Donuts Arena, I think, right?
I believe it is. I believe it is. There you go. Now you're big, and you got a Baltimore native coach on the team. All right.
Well, since you mentioned George Mason, I mean, I know you were talking about it last night. About
John Feinstein brought that up. Yeah, Feinstein brought up that Mason should try to go after Odom. It's at best a lateral move, and I don't even know that it's a lateral move. I think it's a step backwards for Ryan Odom to go to Mason. I think that
Ryan Odom's not taking the George Mason job.
Feinstein's point is well taken. I can swear to you, Ryan Odom and his wife absolutely loved living in Annapolis. Like, there was a value of that to them that would go beyond basketball things. They loved it there. But to take a step backwards after you've elevated Utah State, after you've gotten them, like, you've proven what you could do there, you're on the trajectory to a bigger job.
I think he's 1 year away, maybe two, but from a significant job.
I tend to agree with that.
Like a Pitt or something like that.
I also don't think it would make sense to live in Annapolis if you had the George Mason job. Like, that's not right. Fairfax and Annapolis aren't close. Like,
you can take a helicopter back and forth.
You could. I don't know that they're going to provide you. I know what Feinstein's saying, and Feinstein certainly knows Ryan as well as anyone knows Ryan. There's no question about that. And I do know that this area matters. Like, he loved it here.
It's a great article to write because it's an opinion, a strong opinion about something interesting. But I don't see Ryan taking that job.
I don't either. I just don't. I don't think
he would have been an interesting hire for Providence, But I don't think he was deemed ready for Providence.
That's an interesting argument, too, right? I would say he's more accomplished than Kim English is. Like, I would say he's more accomplished and more prepared than Kim English.
I'd say 2 years from now, I don't know the whole hierarchy at Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
That could be a spot. Rick Barnes is aging sort of out.
Sure. He grew up in the South and, knows the area well. Like, I could see that being a job that he could be in play for. We'll come back in. I got some baseball topics I want to deal with Stan. He's got his power rankings coming. I also want to talk about the World Baseball Classic and the way that I feel about it, the fact that it was that was a hell of a show the other night. I want to talk about a little bit of that with him as well. Today's show, hour number 1, is in the books, and it was brought to you. You know what? I'll let Stan bring this one to you. You had a power meeting last night, your business show last night.
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
Yes.
It's brought to you by the Zoom that I did.
Yes, this is brought to you by the Stan the Fan Variety Hour, as I like to call it.
Well, we about 2 or 3 times a year we get together. We have what I call a sports business huddle. It's Mr. Stein and I host the show, and we have Andy Dulwich from the left coast and Marty Conway, 2 of the smartest sports marketing people. It's a competition to get a word in edgewise,
That's available right now. Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. Click on the videos tab. Go to YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline or PressBoxOnline.com/video. You have anything planned for Monday night yet?
I think we're going to end up with Ken Singleton, but I'm not sure.
Well,
we will talk to Ross today or tomorrow.
We will wait that out. When we come back in, we'll talk some baseball with Stan next. It's Glenn Clark Radio. Are you a diehard O's fan looking for the perfect way to show your team spirit? Look no further than Birdland Sports. Birdland Sports is a small business run by fans for fans. They offer a wide variety of unofficial O's merchandise, from the Birds Are Coming tees to player cartoon shirts and more. And the best part? Their prices are more affordable than the big guys. So head to birdlandsports.com and grab your gear today. Show your support for the Birds with Birdland Sports.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org. Have you experienced hardship due to COVID-19? CCBC has great news for you. We have funding available for short-term career programs like project management starting this March. Gain valuable skills to advance your career and get back on track. With CCBC's project management program, you'll learn how to effectively plan, organize, and execute projects. This is your chance to make a positive change in life. Contact us at 443-840-2222 or online ccbcmd.edu for more information. CCBC Project Management. Your new career starts now with funding available. 443-840-2222 or ccbcmd.edu.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Orioles phenom Gunnar Henderson, breaking down how he was able to become the top prospect in baseball at such a young age and what could be next in his first full MLB season. Also inside, we meet lacrosse players from the men's and women's college programs across the state, and Bo Smoka breaks down another year of wide receiver issues for the Ravens. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
The Baltimore County Police Department is hiring. Entry-level officers start at over $60,000 and over $64,000 for lateral officers, with $10,000 signing bonuses available. Plus, cadets start at over $32,000. Great benefits are available like medical, dental, and vision insurance, tuition reimbursement, 15 sick days per calendar year with no limit, career advancement to more than 20 specialized units, and more, with further incentives for military service members and veterans. A passion for service, a career for life with the Baltimore County Police Department. Find out more at joinbaltimorecountypd.com or call 410-887-5542. Must be a United States citizen, have a valid driver's license, and a high school diploma or GED equivalent.
If you miss anything on the show, don't forget that you can watch full episodes at youtube.com/pressboxonline, and you can download podcasts on Apple, iTunes, Amazon, and Grindr. Wait, did I say Grindr? I don't think that you would find it on Grindr. Not that I know it's on Grindr or anything, I swear. On second thought, you know what? I don't care what you think. Here's Glenn.
One thing we didn't mention as we were talking college basketball there, Hakeem Hart made his decision yesterday. He's going to do everything. He's going to put his name into the NBA draft. Well, he's not going in the NBA draft. So if they'll invite him out to the camps, it makes all the sense in the world for him to.
It's important in the NBA to be able to get your shot off, is it?
I think they want that, Stan. I think that might be what they're looking for. Look, so it's
great shooter who can't create a shot.
It's a wink, wink, nudge, nudge thing. We're like, yeah, he's putting his name in the NBA draft, but what he's really doing is saying, hey, I'd like to go through the process and go out to those camps if somebody will invite me to them, which is certainly no guarantee that Hakeem Hart will even get an invite to those camps, but why not? If one of them is willing to have him, if the Portsmouth or one of these places is willing to invite him in, sure, go through the process. It felt way more like he was saying, I'm just not going to be at Maryland. Like, that's the only thing I know, is that it's not going to be Maryland. Maybe I'll go on and take an opportunity in Europe. Maybe I'll do that, but if I don't, I'll be going somewhere else, because he simultaneously put his name into the NBA draft and the transfer portal at the same time. That smells more like someone who had a conversation with Kevin Willard, and Kevin Willard said, dude, the reality is your playing time is not guaranteed next year. Like, I'm just not – I'm going to be as straight up and honest with you as I can be. Some of these kids that we're bringing in next year, they're probably going to take some of your minutes. That's just the reality of the circumstances.
So it's going to go backwards a little bit.
Right. And I do think it would be a different conversation with Jameer Young. I think Jameer Young goes in and sits down with Kevin Willard, and Kevin Willard says, nope, you'll be running the offense next year if you come back. You'll be the guy. And I even think that Dante Scott would be more likely, as incomplete as he is as a player, I still think that Dante Scott would be more valued by Kevin Willard to be back and provide some sort of front court-ish minutes a little bit in the process. So I still think that.
Does he have any front court help on the way for next year?
It's a 7-footer that's one of the lesser recruits in this class that he's bringing in, but again, could maybe be their Patrick Emilion moving forward, which ultimately was vital for them.
But we don't know who's going to be in the portal.
Right, correct. And presumably they're going to go.
He's going to try and get a banger.
Almost certainly. They'll try to dip in because they don't want Juju Reese to be in such significant foul trouble and have such a problem next year. All right, baseball betting is here. Bet $50 with Maryland's newest sports book, Bet Fred, and get up to $1,111 in bonus Fred bets, along with other great incentives and promos when you sign up through PressBoxOnline.com/offers. Baseball futures bets, season specials, and player award bets are already live in Maryland. Go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers now for your shot at winning big. Stan the Fan, the World Baseball Classic put on a hell of a show.
Yes, it did.
The way that I tried to explain it was I have no problem with somebody saying that I enjoyed the World Baseball Classic. It was quality entertainment for me, as long as we accept that it's a television show, right? It's by no means a qualified way of determining who the world champion of baseball is. It's a TV show, and I like TV shows, and it presented a damn good TV show.
A much more exciting version of the home run derby contest in some way.
It's way better than the Pro Bowl. It's way better than a lot of things.
But are you like dying? And I know I'm not letting you get your question out, but are you like saying, "Boy, I wish they have that every year"?
No, not at all. Not even a little bit.
Yeah.
But now look, to do it they've been doing it every 3 years?
It's every 4 years.
Still every
the
4?
Reason they're doing it 3 is because they canceled it last year.
So it'll be again in 3 years from now. I am fine with that being a thing. I'm fine with it. I would argue it could use a bit more credibility. Look, you can never fix the pitching thing. You can't do that. You can never ask these teams to let these pitchers go any further because the teams would all say, no chance in hell. We will not allow pitchers to be wasting more pitches.
Maybe they could have Trevor Bauer pitch for every team.
I would prefer not myself, but yes, I guess that could be an option.
Seriously, last night I opened the show with Gary, Marty Conway, and Andy Dolich, and I know they're dying to talk about the business of the World Baseball Classic, how many viewers it had. How much, it drew more than about 1.3 million fans.
It was great for the international value.
By the way, it's double what the Oakland A's will draw in 81 games.
That's a fact.
But I said the lasting image for me isn't Shohei Ohtani against Mike Trout. It's watching Cuba in a semifinal game start Roenis Elias. That's who you're trying to win a championship with, Roenis Elias. Now, Japan went all in. They got all their top pitchers in there.
Yep.
U.S., not so much when you got Merrill Kelly and Kyle Freeland as your 1-2 punch.
And look, again, this goes back to it's not a representative way to actually determine a world champion.
Right.
I think that a small thing they could do to improve, again, accepting for me, it's only a TV show, but to improve the TV show,
have more chicks.
Well, that would be good. It's also a 10-day tournament.
Yeah.
Why not make it best of 3? Why not do something that feels more baseball-like once you get there? And if the answer is simply we're going to run out of pitching, there's no way we can play any more games, I'll kind of hear you on that. There's just not an option for it. But a small tweak to me would be at least make it seem like there is no world. Name anywhere else where you in baseball think that one game is a qualified way to determine anything. We don't even do game 163 anymore in baseball.
I understand that, Glenn, but the reality is that this is shoehorned in. And one of the most amazing things is, Steve Phillips now does a show with Cody Decker called The Baseball Dugout. It's supposed to be a fantasy baseball show on the Fantasy Channel. And all they talked about this week, I'm tuning in to hear some insights into fantasy players. They're talking about the World Baseball Classic. And Cody Decker goes, this thing was so great. He says, they ought to stop the season. For 10 days.
No chance.
And have it at the All-Star break instead of the All-Star game. Now, Gary Stein threw out an interesting idea last night is why not make the All-Star game a world All-Star game?
So U.S. versus international?
Yeah, or something to
or North America versus international, something like that?
Reconfigured All-Star game or something like that. That's at least interesting. To stop a baseball season,
you can't do that.
In the middle. You can't do that. You can't do it after the season because the players that are in the World Series and deep into the playoffs are exhausted. The players that aren't have already turned it off for the season.
Correct.
There is no better time to have it than where it is right
now. They'd be doing baseball anyway. This is just for them a better, more desirable. It's as you and I talked about last time. It's either I go to Twin Lakes Park or I go play what feels kind of big.
Yeah.
They're going to say this is better.
It's a nice story that all the players come back to the camps and talk about what a great time they had. The bottom line is the only way they're going to get top-line pitchers, the Max Scherzers, the Verlanders, the Aaron Nola, any of the top-tier, Jack Flaherty, they're going to go to the All-Star game format of one inning. That's what it's going to be. So you're going to watch essentially these incredibly dominant pitchers dominate one inning at a time. The scores will be 1-0, 2-1, very little action, awful lot of strikeouts. I don't think there's any way to do it better than they're doing and try and nudge a little bit better caliber pitcher. Why Cuba did not have a better pitcher than Roenis Elias ready to go for a game that would have gotten them into the finals?
I don't know.
It distorted the whole tournament for me.
But it speaks to but this is all it can be, right? This is you can't do better than this.
And that should be good enough. Nothing has to be better than it is. They drew an incredible amount of eyes watching games across the world. What was it, 62 million
it was unbelievable.
people watched a couple of the games, and they drew 1.3 million over 10 days. It's great for the sport. It can be just taken in for what it is.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with
it.
I'm
too.
okay with saying that's what I said. Even I dismissed that. Everybody in New York can be mad about Edwin Diaz, as you and I talked about. Edwin Diaz could get hurt doing anything.
Could have gotten hurt doing that anywhere.
So to me, when I say it didn't hurt anyone, I don't even want to listen to the pushback to that. It doesn't hurt anyone. Guys can get hurt doing whatever. They happen to be doing it playing baseball. Now, I get it. There's still probably people within the Mets organization that are sick. Like, they would be more able to stomach it if he did get hurt with the Mets than getting hurt away from the Mets. But guys can get hurt anywhere. So go do it.
By the way, speaking of Mets, have either of you seen the commercial with Buck Showalter yet?
Oh,
no, but I would like to.
Oh, my gosh. I love it.
With Dan Vogelback?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's like he's going to steal a base or something. I did
Buck's
see that.
like sort of thinking to him, and they're eyeballing each other. And he goes, no, you're not going to. Do not run.
Yeah,
do not
Vogelback's like, oh, these bases are bigger, you know.
I did see
really
that.
a brilliant
I did see
commercial.
that. It's good. It is quite good. There's no doubt about it. You have been preparing. When are we going to see your power rankings, Stan?
This converged at a really horrible time. You know, I got my fantasy baseball draft Sunday.
Okay.
And I'm so wound up by that. I think so. I'm writing the little write-ups on each of the teams. I got to do all 30 teams at the beginning of the year.
Okay, so
during
you give
the season, I do a top 10, and then give you a ranking of all the rest of the teams.
And for those that aren't aware, the season starts in 6 days.
Yeah.
Like,
the Orioles will be in Boston.
Correct.
It'll be like 30 degrees probably.
I heard a guy calling Steve Phillips this morning saying, I'm out of here in Minnesota. He goes, it's 12 degrees and there's so much snow here.
Good. Are they at home to open the season, the Twins?
But is Target Field?
There's no dome there. It's completely wide open. They got rid of the dome.
Yeah, no domo.
They can do what the University of Minnesota does and try to move into the football stadium to play some games.
At the very latest, they'll be on Tuesday, but they should be ready Monday morning.
You teased them a couple weeks ago.
I teased them. I've got one, and if you want me to give like the top 5, I'll do it, but I'm going to give you one shocker to most people.
All right, a hot take?
A hot take, and it's funny because Steve Phillips, I'm pretty sure, agrees with me. I heard him this morning driving in. The Dodgers are not good. The Dodgers are not going to make the playoffs.
Woo!
I have the Dodgers not even in the top 15 teams.
Not going to make the playoffs,
I know.
You say.
I feel like they'll figure it out a little bit. I mean, yeah, their roster's not as good as, obviously it has been.
They announced that Justin Hayward made the team yesterday. He was
Hay.
like good like 5 years ago.
Like 8 years ago.
And they're really counting on J.D. Martinez to really take the place of Justin Turner and Trey Turner. They've got, and then this guy they thought was going to be the shortstop isn't going to be the shortstop, and they're trying to put lipstick on a pig there, saying, well, we were happy with Miguel Rojas. We brought him in because he can play. This team will not score a lot of runs, and look at their starting pitching. Urias is terrific, right?
And then
Kershaw will start 20 games, right? He'll be hurt
I
one
hear
time.
I hear you.
There's no Walker Buehler, no
Yeah.
Tony Gonsolin. Yeah, they've got Dustin May coming
They're hoping
back
that
from,
Noah Syndergaard can sort of become something again.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I hear you.
And no closer, like a standout closer. Evan Phillips is going to start the season with Antonio Vezina.
Evan Phillips, wow.
Yeah. He's been a star with the Dodgers. Unbelievable. And the Orioles had him
what a world.
in the Gosman-O'Day trade.
What a world. Yeah. Look, I hear you. I'm still hard-pressed to think they're not going to figure out a way into the playoffs. But I get it. There's definitely reason.
San Diego should beat them by 14 or 15 games easily. And you tell me how they're going to beat the Phillies, the Mets, Atlanta, and maybe the Cubs get interesting a little bit. And the Brewers. They're not better than the Brewers.
But
are the
Brewers holding on to Corbin Burns all season? Are they, parting ways with him at the deadline and kind of
depends if they're in the hunt?
Yeah, it's a fair. Or are they the team that says even if we are in the hunt, if we're not signing a guy, we have to make a move?
And what happens if the Brewers, if somehow Christian Yelich finds that gear that he had 5 years ago, 4 years ago, before he broke his kneecap.
It is quite the take that you got the Dodgers. All right, give me your top 5.
Top 5.
I'm going to
top 5.
So the Orioles,
right? Definitely the Orioles.
Orioles
for sure.
number 1.
Right.
Orioles number 2. No, Atlanta number 1.
Okay.
San Diego number 2.
Okay.
Houston number 3.
Mm-hmm.
The Mets number 4. Yankees number 5.
Okay.
And had the Phillies still had Bryce Harper healthy at the beginning of this year and Edwin Diaz, these are 2 big ifs. I think I would have had 3 NL East teams in my top 5.
Do we? You and I talked about this a couple weeks ago. As the Orioles have their final roster decisions to make over the next couple of days, does it feel like Ryan O'Hearn has locked up that spot based on how he's performed this spring?
I think either Ryan O'Hearn or Frankie Cordero has locked up that spot.
Ryan O'Hearn's
over McKenna.
Okay.
Possibly
Stowers. So we're still then in belief that Vavra is going to make the team.
I think Vavra is.
He's been excellent.
I know
this spring.
Brandon Hyde loves his at bats. He just really. The Orioles don't have a lot of guys that work the pitcher. He does work the pitcher. Rutschman does work the pitcher. That's one of the ways you get good starters out of games is make them throw pitches.
Ryan O'Hearn has hit .333 this spring.
Yep. Frankie Cordero is about .430.
He is hitting about .447.
Now, the other possibility is one of those 2 ends up a Philadelphia Philly today or in the next 3 or 4 days.
Okay. Because they lose Reese Hoskins,
A-ball pitching
right?
prospect or something like that.
What was the actual word on Hoskins?
He's out for the season.
I mean, it looked that way when we saw it. I just didn't know if we had gotten that. Oh, it looked awful. I mean,
They have Derek Hall, 27 years old, a slugger, hits right-handers pretty well. But there's talk that Luke Voigt might become available.
Okay.
He had an opt-out that he let pass for a couple days till the Brewers decide. The Brewers may say, hey, Philly, what will you give us for him? And Yuri Gurriel, who's with the Marlins right now, but is not really signed, could end up in Philly. But O'Hearn and Cordero are both interesting possibilities.
Try to get something. I mean, if you can turn it into anything at all, then by all means, go ahead and turn that guy into anything at all. So are you leaning Cordero then?
I'm leaning Cordero, but I think O'Hearn is the safer bet of the 2.
That was sort of where I kind of fell on this. So you think...
Boy, Cordero he's had it for 5 years. He has an intriguing skill set of speed and power. And if the Orioles can figure out a way to get him a little bit more locked in and hit the ball a little more, he does have tremendous power and speed.
There is no question that he is a skill set that there is a reason why teams have continued
He's tantalizing.
Correct. That's exactly the way to describe it. He is a tantalizing. Could we just figure this out, and he could end up being a really productive player?
It's kind of why you let me do the Friday shows with
I say
you.
that all the time. I say
Stan is tantalizing.
Stan the Fan Charles is a tantalizing figure coming in and hanging out with us each Friday. Have you gone on the record with an official prediction for the Orioles?
Because in terms of wins and losses?
Yes, because by the time we see you next, the season will have already began. It's too late for that.
I think the Orioles have a chance to be an 86-87 win team.
Wow. Okay.
The unknown to me right now is I'm starting to read some smart people think Boston is going to figure it out, that they're going to be better, and if that knocks us back, now we play them less. We don't play them 18 times, but it's hard to get 4 teams or 5 teams in a division all over 500.
Almost mathematically impossible. Mathematically impossible to do that.
I think we have a chance, though.
Okay.
It comes down to Bradish, Kramer, Hayes, and Mountcastle.
Those guys have to step up.
Those guys have to step up and be something. I think Gibson's going to have a good year. I think Cole Irvin is going to have a very good year. Those 4 players, you tell me at the end of the year they had good seasons, Orioles could win an 87, 89 games.
I'll listen to that. That's really, as much as we pay attention to Henderson and Rutschman and Grayson Rodriguez.
To me, those are the 2. I don't even have Rodriguez making the team. I don't see him making the team. I've seen him live 3 times. He's never gotten out of a 4th inning. I know one game was at Bowie, and 2 were in the spring training.
But can you have him wasting innings in the minor leagues?
It gets back to the Kevin Gausman thing. Do you make your pitchers
graduate,
earn the graduation, or do you say we need him to be? I don't think they're in a position where they need him right out of the gate to be special. I'd rather he be ready to really be special May 1st and understand that this is not – you just don't get anointed.
Do you run the risk that if you send him back down, you're sending him back down to only pitch 3 innings because you don't want to waste innings down there, and then it goes back to your problem.
There's a certain point you got to build them up. He's got to be able to come up in 3-4 weeks and pitch 5 innings in a game.
Man, it's a tough spot to be in with him. It is a really
Guy's
difficult.
Already 20. How old is he? 24.
Yeah, I hear you.
And they're still waiting. They're going to ramp up DL Hall next year, I guess.
Speaking of the Orioles, Gunnar Henderson is on the cover of this print issue of Press Box, which is still available for another couple of weeks. Get to your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box. You can read it all at PressBoxOnline.com. Great story from Luke Jackson about Gunnar Henderson. Great lacrosse content inside this print issue as well. Go pick it up right now.
My best sports story of 2022.
That's right. That's right. Very sweet story. Very sweet story.
At Stevenson University.
There's a new Lamar Jackson tweet like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
What do we got?
He said, "No weapon formed against me shall prosper."
Well, now that does tell us a lot, actually.
Do you think he's
first
referring
of all,
to the Lamar-O-Meter?
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea what I have no clue.
He's basically accused
of
Glenn
being
Clark
a weapon,
of
right?
weaponizing the Lamar-O-Meter
against him.
And then he said, "I'm the weapon."
Okay. When we come back in, we'll talk a little bit more about Lamar. Former NFL agent Rick Schaeffer will join us. Still to come this morning, Mike Greenberg from ESPN will join us as well. That's all on the way. Stan the Fan is here. It is a Friday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Baseball season is finally here, and what better way to celebrate than with some fresh gear from Birdland Sports. As a small business run by O's fans, Birdland Sports offers a great selection of unofficial merchandise, including unique designs like Birds Are Coming tees, player cartoon shirts, and championship prediction designs. And the best part, their prices are more affordable than the big guys. Get high-quality gear without breaking the bank. So whether you're heading to the ballpark or watching from home, show your love for the birds with Birdland Sports. Visit birdlandsports.com today to browse their collection and gear up for the season. Let's go O's.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
Have you experienced hardship due to COVID-19? CCBC is here to help. With funding available for short-term career programs, you can get back on your feet in no time. Starting this March, become a certified apartment maintenance technician to secure your future. CCBC's program offers hands-on training and prepares you for a rewarding career in the growing field of property management. Don't wait any longer. Call 443-840-2222 or online at ccbcmd.edu for more details. CCBC Apartment Maintenance Technician. Your new career starts now with funding available. 443-840-2222 or ccbcmd.edu.
Another Orioles season is in the books, and the bat-around was there every step of the way as the Birds posted their first winning season in 6 years. And after promoting 2 #1 overall prospects in Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson, Mike Elias has said it's liftoff from here. Hi, I'm Paul Valley, and along with my co-host Zach Goodman, we'll be here every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon all off-season, discussing every signing, trade, and waiver claim as we navigate the cold winter months that lead to spring training. You can watch us at youtube.com/pressboxonline and facebook.com/pressboxonline. facebook.com/PressBoxSports or listen live at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. And if you miss a show, you can find us anywhere you get your podcasts. So tune into the Bat Around with Paul Valley and Zach Goodman every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon right here at PressBox Sports.
Stan the Fan here, welcoming back one of my favorite sponsors, the Costas Inn. And everybody around Baltimore knows the Costas Inn is a great place to go and grab crabs, steaks, salads, soups, whatever's on your mind to eat in person. But did you know that the Costas Inn has upped their game? They are now one of the premier takeout places in Baltimore. Give them a call now to order your food, 410-477-1975. That's the Costas Inn, over 4100 North Point Boulevard.
If you need more of Glenn, you can also hear him every Sunday with Rita on 105.7 The Fan. But also, if you need more of Glenn, what's wrong with you?
The Baltimore County Police Department is hiring, and they want to help you speed up the process. So next Saturday, they're holding a hiring camp event at the Public Safety Building, 700 East Joppa Road in Towson, Saturday, April 1st. It begins at 8:30 a.m., but you have to pre-register. Call 410-887-5521. They do a lot of events where you can just show up. This is not one of those events. 410-887-5521 is the phone number. Great competitive salaries in the Baltimore County Police Department. Cadet salaries start over $32,000 a year. Lateral officers over $64,000. Entry-level officers over $60,000.
Why don't you and I become officers?
It is time. Well, I've already passed the test. I'm good. I could go sign up tomorrow. Okay. I could do this. You might have to
What
maybe.
kind of test is it? How strenuous?
It's how do I say this?
I'm a little pissed.
I mean, Glenn could do it.
That's true. If I can do it,
right,
then maybe, but it might be a challenge.
I think when Glenn's at Stan's
right
age,
now. Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah.
Right now,
you would dust him.
If you ran a mile and a half, how long do you think it would take you?
You mean at one time?
Yes, 1 mile and a half. Right now.
But without
No, you don't.
stopping?
Well, I mean, if you have to stop, you got to bake that into.
It'd probably take me about 25 minutes.
I don't think you're going to make it, Stan. It would need to be about half of that in order for you to qualify for the Baltimore County Police Department, unfortunately. But we can start working on it. We can start training. Cut out those powdered donuts. We're on our way. Passion for service, a career for life. The Baltimore County Police Department. Again, call 410-887-5521 if you want more information about the event tomorrow. Next Saturday the 1st. Stan, you want to have the pleasure?
Go ahead.
Our next guest,
is a dear friend of mine,
former NFL agent, a man who was involved with quite a few negotiations. I know he had been back in the media world. He's doing a show with Bill Polian as well recently. I don't know if what he's up to these days, but we will talk to him about that for sure. Rick Schaeffer, former NFL agent, is with us now here on GCR. Rick, it's Glenn, Stan the Fan. It's truly appreciate you taking the time for us this morning.
Absolutely. I'm delighted to be with you, and I just want to say that Stan was being generous to himself when he said 25 minutes.
I believe in Stan.
Touché.
I believe in him. I think he could.
I think we got the beginnings of an event here, the 25-minute challenge.
Yeah. In the NFL, Stan is measured in what we call calendar time.
Hey, Rick, I said this is what I want to know. If right now Lamar Jackson called you up and said, Rick, I've decided I need you.
I don't think he's certified right now.
Well, that might not work. We got to go through that.
Some people think I'm certifiable. Yeah.
Okay, we have to go through that process again. How do you fix this, Rick? I mean, we're at the point where he's got a snake oil salesman calling around to teams trying to get him a deal. How do you fix this situation as an agent that Lamar Jackson finds himself in?
So, obviously it's a complex question. So let me sort of give you some of the variables and, how I see it. The first one is that in representing himself, he did make it a lot tougher, because when you've been through a lot of negotiations, and all of us have been through negotiations, whether in sports or not, one side's trying to drive up their value and point out all the positive factors about themselves. The other side is having to in essence, derogate and when you do that with the agent knows you're just playing a game. So that, that's an alienating thing to start. The second thing is that I think Lamar looked at what happened in Cleveland and said, and I've been an MVP in this league, and I deserve that kind of money. So part of, the NFL, unfortunately, is the sport where players most need guaranteed contracts. And there are two kind of guarantees. There's skill guarantees and there's injury guarantees.
Mm-hmm.
And because the rate of injury is so high, it would be great for football players, and that if, like baseball or basketball, they all had guaranteed contracts. A 6-year deal is a 6-year deal. In the NFL, it doesn't work that way. If you have a 6-year deal, you get hurt in year 1, you get the rest of that money, and part of year 2, and that's it. None of the rest. But the problem is that with the cap and the number of people that get injured with career-ending and career-diminishing injuries, a team could not possibly stay under the cap if they're paying all the guys who have fallen to injury by the wayside as they're trying to move forward. So just what he's looking for is unrealistic. In terms of what he actually faces, if I were him right now, I would. First of all, he hasn't signed the offer sheet from the non-exclusive tag from the Ravens, and that matters because he has until November, the 10th game. If he doesn't sign it by then and hasn't come back, he can't come back all season. So he's got to get something done. The most logical time would be before the draft, because that's when clubs have something to offer that's valuable. The most likely probably would be the Colts, because Shane Steichen's there. He's bringing the Philly offense. They're lying to block better for a running quarterback than a passing quarterback. But if that doesn't happen, I don't think there are a whole lot of other options. You look at the teams that have running quarterbacks. Is Chicago going to get rid of Fields? Buffalo, Josh Allen. Philly, Hurts. They're locked into the Kyler Murray contract. In Arizona, Daniel Jones is the way the Giants are going. So there's really no other place for him to just step in, and for somebody who has a passing offense to take him at this point in his career, and then have to take a couple of years to bring the club around to do what he does is very tough. So, I'd tell him to keep trying, try the market. Do not report to training camp, hold out. But if at the end of training camp, a deal hasn't happened, sign it and come back and play.
So there's a couple things in there, right? Because I think there's a lot of people that believe, hey, if he just had an agent, a deal would already be done by now. That deal that was reportedly offered by the Ravens would have already been accepted. Clearly, Lamar Jackson didn't want that deal for whatever reason, right? We believe it's because he's holding out for fully guaranteed. His camp has said it doesn't have to be fully guaranteed. It just needs to be $200 million worth of guaranteed, but that's an awful lot of guaranteed. I don't know how you do that without it being fully guaranteed. I guess my question would be, do you think that having an agent would have the power to make him see that this is the best thing for you, that it's not really worth this fight? You're not going to find out that you're never going to get what you want out of this. Take the best thing you can possibly take. Or if he's so hell-bent on this is what I want, that it maybe wouldn't even matter if he had an agent at this point, and he would just say, you can tell me it's the best all there is. I'm not going to listen to it. I'm not playing for that.
Yeah, and I've been through situations in both camps. One where I was able to persuade the client to do things that they initially didn't want to do, whether it was sometimes it was a guy was playing under a contract that he didn't like, and he didn't even want to go back on after Tuesday, which is the day off in the NFL. And I'd have to be, pushing him, begging him to go back and play.
Wow.
And then there were times where we were in negotiations when I thought we had reached a reasonable point relative to comparables, but but someone just said no. I'm not taking that. And when that happens, you're an agent. It's agency law. He's your principal. You have to do what he wants. You can't make him do anything. And if someone is going to be willing to sort of throw their career on the funeral pyre, with unrealistic ambitions for money, there's really nothing in the end you can do about it. I think had he had an agent, the agent would have been preparing him not once the negotiation started, but they would have been having conversations in the last couple of years, and explaining to Lamar. One of the problems that they face is that if we're evolving towards this era seemingly of dual threat quarterbacks, where the guys who I mentioned along with Lamar, are running. And when that happens, running backs have the shortest careers of any position in the NFL pretty significantly. And if a guy is going to spend his time on the field operating as both sort of a running back and a quarterback, you're not going to have the career length. You're not going to see, the Manning, the Breeze, the Rivers, let alone the Tom Brady careers, because their bodies just won't hold up. Look at the last two, examples everybody's going to think of. Think of RG3 and Cam. I mean, RG3, it went down in year 2 and was never the same. Cam had about 6 good years. Of course, he's got a body that could take punishment a lot more easily than Lamar's. But after that, he went from being Superman to being an okay starter to not being an okay starter. So, if teams are going to have to then look to say, if I'm going to draft that kind of a quarterback, and there's some that are coming up in this draft, okay, what I'm probably going to get out of this guy is I'll sign him, to an initial 5-year deal. And if he works out well, maybe I franchise him once or twice, and that's probably all I'm going to get out of him, as opposed to expecting to draft a franchise quarterback, like the Colts did when they drafted Andrew Luck despite his injury. They're looking for a really long career of peak performance from somebody like that, and you're just not going to get that out of running quarterbacks. It's just their bodies are going to break down.
Rick, let me take this in another direction. Again, I don't have a great deal of experience in negotiating things, but I've watched negotiations in the world of sports for a long time, mostly in the labor front. But I know one thing about it. If you have two people, and in this case it's Eric DaCosta and Lamar Jackson, bumping heads for 18 months essentially, isn't it time for at least one new voice in the negotiation, and perhaps two?
And when you say that, Stan, who are the new voices? I don't mean specifically the names, or maybe
Sashi Brown, Steve Bisciotti, and on the other side, of course, it would be Lamar finally relenting and hiring an agent.
I mean, it's possible, but I don't think, I don't like players representing them. First of all, I should say this so everybody knows. The amount that players pay agents is regulated by the NFLPA, and the most you can pay an agent is 3%. So for someone to take this on themselves, I mean, from an economic standpoint, it just doesn't make any sense. At this point, I don't think it's going to be. It's not so much the personalities at this point. It's a negative because you have this tension, on both sides. Even though everyone's, acting very kind towards one another in the press, it's got to be wearing. Now, Steve Bisciotti, who I think is a model owner and doesn't publicly get involved in these things, but I guarantee you, the parameters on this are set by Steve Bisciotti.
Yeah, there's
a deal like this.
There's no question
about it.
There's not a
general manager in the world who's going to say,
right.
Yeah, Bisciotti's a good businessman. He's going to say, I'm not going to give this guy, that amount of money guaranteed.
But what would it mean to the negotiations if Steve Bisciotti were to get involved? Of course, the dollars really aren't going to change substantially, but would it mean anything to Lamar at this point? That, hey, I'm talking to the man.
Yeah, I guess what Steve could do, if he wanted to do this, and you not that this is going to come up that often, but I think he's done what he should do. He's hired good football people. He owns the team. Big decisions are cleared with him, but he doesn't meddle. He doesn't get involved. And I guess if he wanted to call Lamar and say, look, Lamar, if you can find a team out there, great. and we'll either decide to match or not. But I want you to understand, no matter how long you hold out, no matter what you do, I just can't, in good conscience, pay you this. So if you think that the leverage is going to change, and it's not because I don't think the world of you. Yeah. I mean, you're a great leader. You're a great guy in the locker room. You're a great citizen. You're a great guy. But this is a business. I can only pay you what I can pay it. So I guess he'd know once and for all. But I don't think that Lamar is so naive that he thinks that Steve Bisciotti was not involved in this decision, and it's just he's just awaiting for the owner to come in as a white knight and rescue him from this situation. I think he knows that's not going to happen.
Is Rick Schaeffer, former NFL agent. He's with us here on GCR. Rick, I wonder as an agent how you measure that, like how you attempt to weaponize what you just said there about Steve Bisciotti saying, hey, you can do whatever you want, I'm never going to pay that, versus how much the Ravens have backed themselves into a corner in this process. There is no plan B any longer. They have manipulated their cap to be able to match whatever contract it is that Lamar Jackson would receive somewhere else. There are no quarterbacks available at this point. If they don't get someone to put an offer sheet out, then they can't trade him and get something better. Like, you can't get a quarterback with a 22nd pick in this year's draft. I mean, you'd have to move up somehow, and until you got an offer, you can't move up at any point. How would you, as an agent, weaponize that with the Ravens and say, look, you can say you don't want to go to this number, but my God, what else are you doing at this point if Lamar Jackson does say, I'm not going to bother to show up and play football this season?
Well, I mean, so what happens to Lamar is this. If he doesn't play this season, if he doesn't sign the contract, sign the offer sheet and come back by the 10th game, not only does he not get paid for the season, but what happens is the contract, well, it's not, in most places it's a contract, and you're more familiar with this when, let's say, a guy's been on a 5-year deal. Right. He's had 4 great years, and he tries to hold out to renegotiate. Yep. In that case, the contract is told. So let's say he had the contract coming up for 2023, and he holds out. He has a contract year. When he comes back in 2024, he's still playing under the 2023 contract.
Correct.
So if Lamar, and in this case, the way it works is even though there's no contract, if Lamar, that would really be the end of Lamar's career, because if he holds out the entire season, when he wants to come back next season, the same situation is still in place where they've given him the non-exclusive offer sheet. So he's never going to be able to overcome that. So then the question is, who blinks? I mean, Lamar only has one career. Even if it's a long career for a running quarterback, it's brief. The Ravens will get other quarterbacks in the future. So for Lamar to trade that off and give up $32 million, be out of the game for a year, have his skills deteriorated, and all that stuff, it's just not realistic for Lamar to even to really carry through on that threat and put himself in a position like that. I mean, unless someone is giving him incredibly bad advice, if it's an agent or not an agent, he would be more damaged by that than the Ravens would, because there's always next year for the Ravens perpetually. That's not the case for Lamar.
Understood, but if they put the tag, if they went through the process all over again, they'd still have to clear the cap space in order to do it, and you kind of be putting yourself in a bad spot. That to me is as interesting as all of this, right? Because we started this with, I think Lamar's had missteps in this process. I think he's made mistakes, but I think the Ravens are more up against the wall than anyone realizes they are in this process, right? Like, they are leaving themselves on the hook for the whims of someone that appears to be willing to let, again, a snake oil salesman trying to negotiate a deal for them. I don't think this can be a happy day currently. As much as we've tried to give the Ravens credit and say, hey, look, they played the correct hand. The offers haven't come in. Mm-hmm. All these teams know they're just going to match an offer anyway, so why bother to make an offer? They're still sitting here without knowing with an abundance of certainty that the guy's going to end up taking the deal. And my understanding, they're not even really getting a lot of response from him in this process. Like, this can't be a good situation for a team that hasn't been able to sign another player. Like, they've had to keep the cap space cleared. They can't sign another player. This ain't a great spot for the Ravens.
No, it's a really bad situation for everybody. I mean, so, obviously at this point, the Ravens have to hope one of a couple things happens. Either let's say, and I think the most likely team would be the Colts. They come up and they want it to happen before the draft. That's really the next inflection point is the draft, because if the Ravens, then the Colts could say to them, okay, you're going to get this year's first, and we're because you want it to be in this year's draft. That's the good thing for the Ravens. Maybe the Colts can negotiate down, instead of a first next year, it could be a lower pick or something like that, or maybe the Ravens get a player that they want out of it. So that's going to be the time right before the draft when, if anything would happen, it would happen then. It gets really problematic after the draft when free agency has been exhausted pretty much among free agents. The draft has divvied up the players. There's not much left to do in terms of rearranging things. So you're right. I mean, this is a lousy situation for both. If Lamar is going to really say, and I don't think Lamar has publicly said, "I'll never come back. I'll never play."
No, not at all.
Yeah. I mean, the whole idea here was, and Bill Polian, who's been my client for 30 years, was one of the guys who created this whole system. On the other side with Gene Upshaw, and as you guys know, I mean, there was never a meaningful free agency in the NFL. And then when they decided to have it, the balance was the cap, which would even off things, and then the final kicker was this, which of course the Players Association hated, were these 3 tags that you could put on somebody so that the stars would just not leak away immediately. This was set up so that there would be a balance, and at some point, both sides would, come to some reasonable either thing on their own, or the system would take over. The $32 million is $32 million. The guy accepts it, and then you have a year to try and decide, okay, what am I going to do? Can I get a trade? And you're hoping that one of the things that happens is with Lamar out there testing the market, because that was the great thing for the player about the non-exclusive non-exclusive match. He could go out there and actually for himself see if there's a market. If Lamar sees there's no market, and without a market, still thinks somehow he's going to get more money, then the system never predicted that kind of irrational behavior.
Right.
Because how does he benefit himself? So, and I'm not, you're right. I mean, it's not perfect. It's a lousy situation for the Ravens as well. I just think if I were his agent, I'd say, Lamar, we've put them in a difficult spot, but you have one career, and you see the market's not there. No one's giving you this money. Take the $32 million and let's try and get you out of there after next year. I just don't see any other reasonable solution for Lamar.
Rick, two quick questions. Number one, you alluded to, are they allowed, both teams, if it would come down to a trade to the Colts, are they allowed to modify the return to the Ravens where it could be a first this year and a player and, say, a second next year or something like that?
Yeah, sure, because what they do is they do a trade. And, in other words, the offer sheet would not come into place.
Okay.
Anybody can be traded, and they would just trade him for X.
But he has to agree to sign the offer sheet, correct?
He, yes. I mean, well, he doesn't.
I mean, they're not going to make this trade and then sit there with a Mexican standoff with him again.
Oh, no. The trade would in essence take precedence over the offer sheet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second,
because in other words, his rights still belong to the Ravens. They're in this limbo because of that, but they have the right to trade him. So they trade him, and he'd sign a deal with the Colts, and obviously the Colts are going to, make sure they don't have this. They don't have a sign and play like they do in the NBA, but that's what they would do. They'd have the deal all set up that Lamar is going to sign. They'd make the trade, and the Colts would just sign him.
All right. Last question I have for you is the Ravens' reputation somehow damaged by what has gone on for these last 3 months, 4 months now?
Well, would you say damaged among what audience?
That's what I'm saying. Within the confines of the NFL, have they been somewhat damaged?
Well, certainly, among ownership in the NFL,
they're applauded,
everybody's
right? They're applauded.
Patting. Oh my God, yes. I mean, when that Watson contract happened, that was, that was the equivalent of a bomb going off in the NFL. I mean, people couldn't believe that they did this. And I've been a player's guy my whole life. I know the things the owners have done in the past, but I don't believe that collusion is happening because collusion is not necessary. On the one hand, everybody's trying to resist, long-term, fully guaranteed contracts for quarterbacks. And secondly, in this case, knowing, the likelihood of a person the player not being able to actually fulfill the length of that contract with injury, they really don't want that precedent. So each one's making the same decision on their own. It's what you would call in antitrust law market leadership, where the leading company sets a certain price. They can't collude with other companies to match that price. But when they set that, everybody follows that, and that evens out the market. So, the NFL is completely applauding him. The Players Association, cannot, if they truly believe there's collusion, they're going to have to file a non-injury grievance and prove it in front of an arbitrator. I don't think they're going to be able to do that. So obviously the Players Association doesn't like the fact that this is happening, that a star player, is going out there. The system's supposed to operate, that he goes out and gets a matching offer sheet and he can't come up with one. But there's, but it is what it is. And if someone pushes any system beyond the limitations of the system's going to break down.
The funny thing is, we've been doing this for this long, and Rick, I'm not sure that we're still anywhere close to actually having anything that resembles a significant answer. Rick, before we let you go, what are you up to these days? Get us caught up on what it is that you got going on in your life.
So, working on a few deals. I'm actually doing some stuff. The original sport I worked in is tennis, and I'm working on some things in tennis.
Is there a chance of a comeback as a player?
I will. When you break the 10-minute mile, I will stage my comeback, and we will have a day for 2 Jews in Baltimore.
Rick Schaeffer. Is it something that maybe we'll be hearing about soon? Can we leave it at that?
If it happens, you'll be here.
Okay, we like that. Rick, really appreciate the time you've taken for us. Obviously, it's an extraordinarily complicated situation that we're dealing with no clear and direct answers. But thank you for coming on and sharing your insight with us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Rick.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Rick.
Take care, guys.
Rick Schaeffer, former NFL agent with us here on GCR. And again, even within that.
It's all very logical when you talk to an agent.
Well, but even within that, it's hey, look, this is what I would tell him to do. What is he going to do? What is he?
Yeah.
There is so much there, man. It is so loaded, this situation. And while I hear him that it's not sensical for Lamar Jackson to sit out for the year, to threaten that in hopes of saying, look, we know what situation you're in too, would make all the sense in the world to me. Why wouldn't you attempt to weaponize that and say, you've got your back against the wall in this process. We've seen the way things look for you guys. You're, to say, well, we could do this all again next year. Why? Why would you fear the Ravens continue to sink that much of your cap into playing this game with Lamar Jackson? It's a mess, man. It is a mess. But we've got the entire gym. That's what we've got. All right, we may or may not be squeezing Mike Greenberg in before the show is over. It's complicated. He had to delay, and there's a limit to how far we're going to delay and just hang out. We're going to do tid-bit, we'll do tubular, and we'll kind of see where we are at that point. And if Mike Greenberg's ready to join us, he'll join us. If not, he'll probably join us on Monday's show, if I had to guess. Will be the way that ends up playing out. Today's show is brought to you by Birdland Sports, where they've got so much great gear available for you. And I know you're thinking to yourself, boy, baseball season's just around the corner. There's still time for you to get your order in and have it in time for opening day. There is still time. for you to order, for example, your Felix Bautista The Mountain shirt, if that's the one that you're looking for.
Wow.
You can get that right now. Yeah. Oh, what? Oh, like that. That's what you're saying.
Shirt.
That's even
Wow.
better. You're suggesting that's a better shirt than this one is?
Yeah.
All right, that one I do like. The 2023 World Series champ shirts, the Birds Are Coming shirt.
Does Greenberg have number 74? Is it taken by somebody?
I think it was taken by something is the answer
Billy
on
Ray
that
Smith.
one. Yeah, something. Well, hang on a second. I'll pull up what 74 was in Greenberg's book. I'll get there. Maybe
Made
I
the
won't.
argument for Muhammad Ali.
Because what did 74 represent for Muhammad Ali?
That's
Was
the first name in this chapter.
it was maybe when a certain fight was.
He says Billie Jean King because
What,
the year 1974.
What?
Is that when she won?
No, Ali Frazier was in 74. That's the reason why he went with Ali for number 74, was Ali Frazier in 1974. Anyway, the moral of the story being, Birdland Sports has great shirts, great gear. It's all available for you right now, birdlandsports.com. It's by Birds fans, for Birds fans. Prices much cheaper than the big guys, and a better selection, and the quality remains the same. Birdlandsports.com. Get your order in now. Have your gear in plenty of time for opening day. What you got for us for tidbits?
Okay, I did mention I have a few Marquise Noel.
Where'd that come from? What's this Route 66 hat?
Fantasy baseball team.
Oh, is it?
is
Okay,
fantasy.
all right.
Good. You made hats for it?
I'm ready.
Before I get to Marquise Noel, UConn, they have now won their first 3 games by 15 or more points in the tournament.
They have been world beaters.
Yes, the last time Connecticut did that, 2004, and they did go on to win a national title.
That was their second national title.
Yes.
How about that? That would have been the Karan Butler's title that year, if I remember correctly. I believe that's the one. Yeah. Because there was you can almost do it by player with UConn. There's Rip Hamilton's year, there's Karan Butler's year, there's Kemba Walker's year, and there's Shabazz Napier's year, right? Like that's the way that you kind of do it with the UConn titles. All right, just go. Just keep going. You don't know.
I don't know.
It's fine.
Marquise Noel, so he scored or assisted on 63 of Kansas State's 98 points. That is 64%. It's the most points created by a player in a tournament game since.
Give me those numbers one more time. I feel like we undersold that. Say that number one more time.
63 points were created by Marquise Noel of the 98 scored by the Wildcats against Michigan State last night. That is 64%. Most points created in a tournament game by a player since tracking began of this in 2010. And the 19 assists are most in a tourney game since assists became official, I guess, in the NCAA. And he passed. You want to try to guess who he passed? Who had 18 in the 1987 Final Four?
1987 Final Four had
UNLV.
Yeah, it was UNLV.
Yeah, it was Stacey Augmon.
No, it was
Greg Anthony.
Mark Wade.
Oh, okay.
Mark Wade had 18 assists in 1987. He held that record for quite a long time until Marquise Noel last night. He is now also the 5th player with 15 points and 15 assists in an NCAA tournament game since assists, again, became official in 1984. He joins 4 other players, the most recent of which did it in 2019 with Murray State.
Would have to be Ja.
That would have to be Ja Morant. So he joins Earl Watson in 2000, Sam Crawford in 1993, and Keith Smart in 1987.
It's pretty. I mean, look, not all those names jump off the page, but
Right.
man,
15.
it's remarkable.
Does not happen.
Just remarkable.
Yeah. All right, and then finally, I'm going to doing a baseball one here since Stan's here today. One of the rule changes that we haven't talked too much about is the shift ban, and kind of one of the reasons. So Codify did a tweet the other week, and they were kind of looking into why they want to ban the shift, and it's because over hold on, lost my stat for a second. Over 11 qualified hitters last year batted under 220, which is the first time ever that
if you reach the qualifying at whatever the number is,
that double digits have hit under 220. So I want to see if you guys can name the.
By the way, 04 was definitely not Karan Butler. He was gone by then. It must have been Ben Gordon then that carried them to that title. Sorry, go ahead.
Ben Gordon.
Yes.
Who were those 11 qualified hitters who hit
under 220 last year?
Yes.
How many of them were left-handed?
1, 2,
all of them?
3, 4. A good bit of them, yeah. Not all of them.
And Chris
Probably about
Davis
half and half.
retired.
Yeah, he was out of the game,
was
so
out
it
of the
couldn't have
game.
been Chris Davis.
How about Lowe for the Tampa Bay?
No, not Lowe. Didn't he have a couple injuries? I don't think he qualified.
I'm trying to I really am struggling with who
There
is
is an
all-
Oriole.
Mateo.
Not Mateo.
Odor.
Odor, yeah.
Odor.
Rogan
Oh,
Odor.
yeah.
There's 11 of these guys.
There's 11 of these guys. Under 220 qualified.
Aaron Hicks?
Not Aaron Hicks.
Yeah.
This is one of those questions. It's too good.
Hang on.
Thank you, Stan.
No,
But there's
it's
what's his Gallo?
Gallo.
No, not
Yeah.
Joey Gallo. He didn't qualify.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
God.
There are 2 Dodgers, though.
Is one of them a Cincinnati Red?
No, not a Cincinnati Red.
How about Jesse Winker?
Jesse Winker on the list. 219 just qualified for under 220.
Who's the
with the Mariners.
Dodger that would have qualified?
Did Verdugo have a horrible year last year?
No, Verdugo had a solid year.
Okay.
With Boston,
that's
yeah.
right, okay. Thought I heard during a preseason game somebody was talking.
Schwarber?
Schwarber is on this list with the Phillies. He batted 218.
But he had how many home runs?
He had 46.
Okay.
And that's what I'm trying to.
That's a
I'm
good
trying to
trade.
think of
They're
that
not, like,
all home run.
horrible,
That's what
yeah.
I'm trying to come up with on this list. Because if it's just a guy who had a stinky season and didn't do anything, I'm probably not going to remember it.
There's one other guy who hit 30. He hit 35 home runs last year.
Guy who hit 35 home runs.
So you're
Rizzo?
probably not Rizzo. This is a lefty, yeah.
Guy who hit 35 home runs and is a lefty.
Lefty.
He's on an NL Central team. Last year he was.
Central team.
Yelich?
Central team.
Not Yelich. Correct team, though.
Rowdy Tellez.
Rowdy
Tellez.
Tellez. 35 home runs. Bet 219 as well.
That's right.
For the Milwaukee Brewers.
I wasn't paying attention to your clue there.
You're gonna have to start.
the 2
I know you're trying to
Dodgers,
drag
yeah.
time out from Mike Greenberg, but this is bad
Bellinger.
radio.
Bellinger is one of them.
Okay.
Bellinger batted 210 last year with the Dodgers in a very down year.
And Justin Hayward?
No, not Jason Hayward, not Jason.
Jason Hayward. I mean, Jason Hayward.
You kind of made Justin Upton and Jason Hayward the same player,
Did
I think,
the
is
same
what you
thing.
did.
I do that sometimes.
right.
Right side of the infielder for the Dodgers.
Max Muncy.
Max Muncy, yes. Max Muncy batted 196 last year.
Wow, was it that bad?
Yeah.
God, I don't.
And he's so good
he had
that
a-
they're
he had
moving
three-
him to third base.
Right,
where he
correct.
can't play third base.
Correct. Well, that makes. Boy, it's almost like they're not going to be a playoff team.
Former Oriole in Detroit,
John Scope.
Jonathan Scope.
Jonathan.
Yeah,
Scott.
batted
Oh, he was
202
one of the
last year.
right-handers.
Yeah,
I didn't,
one of the
I didn't
right-handers.
realize it was that bad for John.
Another
Scope last year.
former Orioles system guy
Former Orioles
the-
system guy
in San Francisco.
in San Francisco.
Yastrzemski.
Yes, yeah.
Mike Yastrzemski batted 214.
How
we
many
have
are we
a-
at now? 7? 8?
Yeah, we have 3 more. So
more.
we have a Cub, we have a Padre, and a Royal.
Cub.
The Cub.
Padre and a Royal.
Cub hit 25 homers last year.
25 home
One of those
runs.
corner infield guys.
It's not him because he's gone. I was about to say Chris Bryant.
How about Hosmer?
Not Hosmer. He's not the
25,
Padre.
hit 25 home runs. I don't know that I'm coming up with this.
Yeah.
Patrick Wisdom. Patrick Wisdom.
Did
batted
not realize he
207.
hit under 220. Okay.
207. And then Padres outfielder, and then a rookie for the Royals last year, their rookie catcher. MJ.
Oh,
Grisham?
and-
Grisham is the Padre, yes.
Okay, Trent Grisham.
And then MJ Melendez for the Royals. Batted 217.
That was
Grisham
too,
was
that was too
24.
good a question.
that was tough, man. That was it's hard to remember really stinky players.
All right, here. So the Orioles just announced Kyle Gibson as the opening day starter.
Oh, is that official?
Yes, yes, they made that official.
I mean,
about
I
an
think
hour
we all
ago.
assumed that, but
The last time he was, Rich Dubraw pointed this out, last time he made an opening day start was April 2021 with the Rangers. He faced the Royals. He only got through 8 batters before allowing 5 runs.
rough.
Yeah. But he got 1 out.
So how does this shake out for who would start the home opener then? Because there's 6 games before the home opener, correct? So who would be the?
So whoever's the number 2 guy, I guess.
They're saying they didn't want
Irvin.
Irvin to
Swervin'
start
Irvin?
the game in Boston, but I don't understand why. I wouldn't mind him starting in Boston.
Well, he would. So you're gonna hold him for the entire first
Bradish
series?
and Kramer?
Yeah, in games 2
Yeah.
and 3. I guess that would make Bradish in line to start the
Yeah.
home opener then at that point.
Or Well, they go to Texas. After.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So you go through the rotation at one full time, and then presumably Gibson would start the third game in Texas.
No, Gibson, the third game in Texas.
Yeah, and then it would be Bradish, I guess, to come back around
Yeah.
to start the home opener at that point.
Bradish or Kramer, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
I guess that's what the
He is the second Oriole to make his debut with the team on opening day as the pitcher since 2010. Or third. Sorry, it's the third. So there are two more Orioles.
You're going to ask me to try to remember who some of these
There's two. Well,
started their debut in
2010.
The Orioles were really bad in 2010, bro. For me to try to remember who was.
And then also 2020.
Great. You picked two of the worst possible. The 2020, it was not even a real baseball season. You want me to remember
who was the Orioles opening day starter?
In 2020?
Left-hander.
Keegan Aiken?
Not Keegan Aiken. His debut with the team.
Zimmerman.
Tommy Malone.
Oh, sure.
And then,
how could I not remember such an electric moment?
Two-ton Tommy Malone.
He wants you to remember that Tommy Malone started opening day in 2020.
And then in 2010, of course, Kevin Millwood.
Sure.
Made his debut
Very
as the opening day starter for the Orioles.
He pitched a very good, decent game.
I'll choose to believe you. I don't remember anything about opening day 2010, unfortunately. I was probably there. I just don't remember anything about it. All right, that was Tidbit. Tidbit was brought to you today by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. Tubular is just a reminder that gambling can be fun, but you should set a limit, stay within it. Remember that if you or a loved one has a gambling problem, you can call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or visit helpmygamblingproblem.org for free confidential services. All right, tonight, NCAA tournament, TBS, San Diego State, Alabama at 6:30, Princeton, Creighton after that, CBS, Miami, Houston at 7:15, then Xavier, Texas is the late game tonight. Tomorrow, the two games are now set. They're both on TBS. First up, Florida Atlantic, Kansas State at 6:09. Gonzaga, UConn, which should be a hell of a game, immediately follows that. Both games on TBS. Of course, tomorrow, NCAA Women's Tournament, Notre Dame, Maryland, 11:30 a.m. on ESPN for that one with Debbie Antonelli on the call. Also tomorrow, there is the UFC card that we talked about, and Baltimore's own Tucker Lutz is on the pre-card or whatever.
He's the featured prelim.
He's the featured
so
prelim,
like 6:30.
which will be on ESPN. You will be able to watch that on ESPN. Tucker Lutz taking on Daniel Pineda as part of the UFC Fight Night festivities, a Baltimore fighter in action. Local lacrosse this weekend. Tomorrow, Penn State, Maryland, 5 o'clock. Hopkins is at Michigan at 7 o'clock, but both of those games are on Big Ten Network, so you can watch them. Loyola's on the road at Army at noon on ESPN+. Navy's at Holy Cross at noon on ESPN+. Towson's at home tomorrow at noon against – what's the weather supposed to be like tomorrow? Is it supposed to get any better? Because I would actually take
I'm inclined to say yes, but
if it was nice, I would take my kids out. But if it's like this, obviously I will not be doing that. Actually, UMBC's at home as well tomorrow against Merrimack. UMBC's been pretty good this year. Both those games at noon. And then we got a big one tomorrow night. Stevenson hosting Salisbury. Always a big rivalry game for those teams. No, the weather's going to stink.
more rain, yeah.
Awesome. We will not be doing those
warmer,
things.
though,
Why couldn't we get a nice weekend? Is that too much to ask
Sunday's
for?
supposed to be beautiful.
Tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, Stevenson hosting Salisbury. Go MustangSports.tv for that. Everything else, I think you can go to GlennClarkRadio.com and find it there. Nothing that particularly stands out. Oh, the CONCACAF Nations League opens tonight. TNT for the U.S. and Grenada. You throw out all the records whenever those two countries get together. Everybody knows that. Anything non-sports-wise that stands out?
Just a couple things. Well, there's one sports thing. Amazon Prime is going to have a Reggie Jackson documentary just called Reggie.
Okay.
Comes out today.
All right. Is it just a one-off, or is it a series?
Yeah, just a
okay.
Yeah, just one-off documentary called Reggie.
All right.
And then Hulu has a new show.
Of course, let's say that correctly. Orioles legend
Reggie
Jackson. Let's show the man the due respect that he deserves. Orioles icon Reggie Jackson.
A new show called Up Here on Hulu. It's like a musical about two people who fall in love in the 90s in New York City.
I'm good. Thank you.
Love is Blind season 4 on Netflix.
Also good.
You got these. Well, here's the thing.
I'm aware of the premise of this show. Like it's in the dark.
Attractive people. They're like, I want to be loved for who I am.
Okay. I'm aware of the premise. No.
Knock at the Cabin comes to streaming. That's on Peacock, so you can watch that for free on Peacock now.
I said, do you understand what highlights are? When I say highlights, do you know what that means?
New episode of Lucky Hank.
Oh, I did watch Lucky Hank.
How was it?
What's Lucky Hank about?
It's Bob Odenkirk's new show on AMC. So immediately, of course, right? As soon as I hear that, I'm inclined to watch. I think the problem is you psych yourself up for the idea that it's going to be like a Breaking Bad or a Better Call Saul. It ain't that.
Yeah, it's totally different.
It's wildly different. Now,
is it a comedy?
Ish. It's a kind of dramedy with some dry comedy mixed into a show about Bob. He plays a college professor who's later in his life and is very bored with his job. Does not care. Like, he just does not care anymore. But he's been around. He's got tenure. There's no reason for him to leave. And there's some good dry comedy in there. Diedrich Bader is a part of the show. I do like Diedrich Bader. The guy that played Oscar from The Office is part of it. I like him. There is good. There are. But
it's on AMC?
It's on AMC.
Oh, good.
I watch an episode. I'm willing to keep up with it, but just don't convince yourself that it's something that it isn't.
Is it a half hour?
I think it was an hour. Okay. I think it was an hour, if I remember correctly. It was fine. I'm willing to continue to watch Lucky Hank.
That's
really all it is I like Bob Odenkirk so much at this point.
Movie that he
Nobody.
Did last year?
It was brilliant.
It was great.
Brilliant. It's one of the best movies of this.
Is it better than Cocaine Bear?
I don't know. Cocaine Bear was a lot of fun, Stan. Cocaine Bear was a lot of fun.
Yet,
You should watch Cocaine Bear was a lot of fun. It's absurdly silly. It's ridiculous. But it's so much fun that it makes up for all of the problems that you might have with it. It is a romp.
Was it technically Ray Liotta's last
movie? That was what everybody was saying, but when you go
he had done other.
There are some other things that are still in production that involve. Now, did he have a significant role in those other things? This might be his last significant role of his career.
Yeah. I've asked you this question. Did you ever see arguably Tony Soprano, James Gandolfini's last film?
No, but everybody told me it was wonderful. I need to watch that.
The Drop is absolutely great. Thomas Hardy's in it.
Okay. Oh, I love Tom Hardy. Rami Malek?
No, Rumi.
Mara.
The woman.
Rooney Mara.
No, the woman who played in Rumi Kapeshi or something like that. She played in the remake of The Dragon Tattoo.
Oh, the girl with the dragon tattoo. Okay, all right. I don't know.
I have the first name wrong.
Yeah, I don't.
Not Rooney Mara.
Numi.
Numi, I think. Numi, that's her. Capage. She's in it. It's great. Absolutely great.
Okay. All right. The Drop. I'll put it on. I will. I need
Thomas Hardy's.
I need to watch it because I have had a lot of people tell me over the years that it was definitely worth spending my time with. You know what? I never watched either. I never watched The Many Saints of Newark. Did you ever watch it?
No, never seen that.
I liked it. I mean,
it was so mixed, the response that I got from people about it.
I mean, it was fine. Like, it's not like it wasn't like an actual episode of Sopranos. I mean, it was obviously modernized.
I'll give you an older film that is reminiscent in just the feel of it. The Friends of Eddie Coyle. Have you ever seen that with Robert Mitchum?
Okay.
Oh God!
All right. I'll put it on the list.
I mean, when you haven't seen when you haven't had new Sopranos in like 10 plus years, Many Saints, I thought was serviceable.
Look, I'm not saying I wouldn't watch. I didn't feel great about El Camino. Like, it was just fine, but I was kind of happy to have Aaron Paul back in my life a little, have Jesse back in my life a little bit. Like, it was serviceable for me to do El Camino. I probably would find myself. And now it's obviously a different concept because it's different characters and Many Saints of Newark, but I would probably be willing.
Yeah, plenty of Easter eggs, that.
Wait, does John Wick come out this weekend?
Yes, it does.
Son of a bitch.
John Wick is today.
4, right?
Oh, I do need to watch John Wick. That absolutely has to happen at some point this week. Well, now that I can't take my kids to lacrosse tomorrow, I will spend my afternoon watching John Wick.
Nice.
That will be the plan instead.
Go for it. Succession Season 4 is also the final, the new thing coming out.
That starts on Sunday.
Starts on Sunday night
okay.
on HBO. Yeah, Succession Season 4. I guess the final season is what people are kind of rumoring.
We're
not sure. Yeah, we're not sure.
I genuinely don't know. All right. Well, I will look forward to it. It'll be a little emotional watching John Wick 2 with Lance Reddick being gone now, man. Like, God, that'll sting. All right. Well, we tried, Griffin. We did our best. It's just it wasn't meant to be, so it is. Hopefully Mike Greenberg will join us on Monday. Hopefully that will be the case. If you haven't picked up the print issue of Pressbox yet, go ahead, get it right now for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms and at the hundreds of locations around town where you find Pressbox, or read it all at PressboxOnline.com. Gunnar Henderson's on the cover. And don't forget, PressboxOnline.com/offers is the best place to go to get all of the great sign-up bonuses that are available, including Bet Fred. Bet $50, get up to $1,111 in bonus Fred bets. But you got to go to PressboxOnline.com/offers. Power rankings early next week.
Should be Monday.
Monday should be Monday. You will be hanging out with Ross on Monday night.
Monday night, we'll probably have Ken Singleton.
And
Thursday night, we hope to have Jeff Zreback on.
Okay, great.
Who will clarify the entire
Oh,
Lamar Jackson.
yes, he'll be able to explain everything now to a T.
Does Jeff know about the Lamar-O-Meter?
Oh, I would imagine that he does. I don't know that he can.
If he's worth
Right,
his
yeah.
salt.
How could anybody in this town not know about the Lamar-O-Meter? And then you'll be on with the boys tomorrow morning on the Bat-Around.
That is correct, sir.
10 to noon, Paul and Zach talking baseball with you right here. Thanks to Rick Schaeffer. Thanks also to Debbie Antonelli. We'll get that up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh, my God, it's so good.
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. We'll have whoever we have on Monday. Maybe Mike Greenberg. Who knows? Thanks, everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, the Baltimore County Police Department, Problem Gambling, Royal Farms, Costa Sin, CCBC, Birdland Sports, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass on Twitter. Follow us at Glenn Clark Radio, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok.
If you need me Monday to unveil my power ranking.
We will. You know what? By the way, maybe we'll just have you do Mike Greenberg's hit. Maybe we'll just have you debate numbers with us for 20 minutes as well. All right. And Stan will be in for me next Friday. So if you say, I would enjoy that show if it was more Stan and less Glenn, next Friday is your day. That will be the day for you. All right.
Griffin, the Lamar-O-Meter's coming down.
Oh, my God.
That's it.
We worked
Boy, that is
Lamar-O-Meter.
bold.
We
You're
worked
gonna
hard on that.
To poor Gwen's chili bowl? You're going to do that to her? All that effort she put in? My God. All right.
Wipe down, you mean you're just going to move the meter down to 100?
That's what he meant. Yes, he's going to move the meter
physically down, but up.
All right. Have a great weekend. Go Maryland women. Go local lacrosse teams. Duke sucks.